Chapter 4603. You've already blocked it for me once. Do you want me to die if you do it again? A man's low and hoarse voice floated down from above. That warm and soft lips covered her forehead. Yin Xiaoyi's eyes suddenly reddened. Tears seeped out from the corner of her eyes. Golden light surged. It blended with Gong Xiaoju's approaching figure. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of the two of them. Gong Xiaoju's eyes were filled with malevolence. She clenched the dagger tightly, carrying a terrifying aura, and stabbed towards Xiao Jin's back. Xiao Jin's fingers moved. Dark light wantonly. The golden light formed a huge vortex in front of him. Gong Xiaoju's dagger. The dagger was almost swallowed by the vortex. Gong Xiaoju's face was ferocious as she held the dagger tightly. Still want to resist? Do you think this princess doesn't know that your current strength has already reached the limit of what your body can bear? Her fingers moved towards the dagger. The dagger moved. Fresh blood smeared on the dagger. On the dagger, she poured all the dark energy in her body. Don't think of stopping this princess. All of you must die. All of you must die. Gong Xiaoju's throat was hoarse as she screamed crazily. The force of the collision between the two. The collision caused the golden vortex to spread a little. Xiao Jin's breathing tightened. He hugged Yin Xiaoyi's slender waist with one hand. No matter what, he must not let the person in his arms suffer any more harm. He had to hold on. You've only disappeared for a few days, and the Palace of Darkness is already so arrogant? Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice came from the sky. That voice was filled with endless mockery and disdain. The moment that voice rang, Gong Xiaoju was stunned on the spot. This voice was that voice, Ren. It was that voice. Genuine's voice. Gong Xiaoju's pupils constricted as she looked towards the direction of the voice, and when the few people who were fighting heard this voice, they were also stunned, until the shadow of a colossal creature approached from afar. They saw a huge nine-tailed fox swaying its 9 furry tails as it landed elegantly. Everyone saw a purple figure jump down from the back of the 9-tailed fox. Her purple robes fluttered in the wind, and her style was peerless. As soon as he appeared, this caused the entire courtyard to fall into a weird silence. Lord Dizun. All the profound practitioners panicked. His gaze fell on the petite figure in the man's arms. The girl lazily nestled in the man's arms. There was an indifferent sneer on her beautiful face. She met everyone's gaze and smiled faintly. She looked around and finally fixed her gaze on Gong Xiaoju. Is there no one else in the Palace of Darkness? They actually sent a piece of trash like you to cause trouble? Jianren. Gong Xiaoju glared at the girl in red with unconcealable resentment in her eyes. It really was her. That girl. She's back. Yiqing Luo landed on the ground from Mo Xian's arms. The corners of her lips curled into a cold arc. Do you know the consequences of hurting my friend? Gong Xiaoju's face sank, and she took a few steps back. Yiqing Luo had no intention to stop her. She just smiled faintly and her voice was elegant. It's all right if you don't know, because you will find out very soon. She let go of Mo Xian's arm. Slowly, she walked towards Gong Xiaoju. Gong Xiaoju was so shocked that she jumped up. Her hand gripped her dagger tightly. Her hand was trembling. You dare to touch me. The word hand had not even left her mouth. That young lady who was walking slowly. In a blink of an eye, she appeared in front of her. The young lady raised her hand and moved slightly. The golden light dispersed. The whirlpool disappeared. And Chapter 4604. Her fingers were icy cold, like a sharp blade, deeply embedded into Gong Xiaoju's neck. Gong Xiaoju was in so much pain that her entire body was twitching. Her face was pale as she struggled with all her might. But the more she struggled, the stronger the force on her neck became. She could even feel that her legs were gradually leaving the ground. The suffocating pain assaulted her. Ugh, ugh, ugh. She twisted her body in pain. She could clearly hear the young lady's mocking sneer. Overestimating yourself, waste. How dare you touch my people? That tone was so cold that there was no fluctuation of emotions. Gong Xiaozhu felt her entire body was icy cold. The aura of death and despair made her eyes start to roll back. Until, when Gong Xiaozhu was still on her last breath, Yiqing Luo then threw her onto the ground. Gong Xiaozhu started coughing violently. She hadn't calmed down yet. A foot stepped on her wrist. Yiqing Luo stepped on her hand and slowly lowered her body, placing her elbow on her knee. Hearing Gong Xiaozhu's painful cries, Yiqing Luo picked up the dagger by the side. The blade was very blunt, as though it had rusted. Wisps of black qi lingered around the dagger. This dagger was targeted at the Huangfu family's king tong. The black qi on the dagger. It was extremely strange. But to ordinary people, it didn't have much effect. But once it came into contact with the Huangfu family's bloodline, that was to quickly swallow the Huangfu family's bloodline. Especially, the more orthodox the bloodline, the greater the impact on one's body. So right from the start, Gong Xiaozhu's target was Qiao Jin. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched. Where did this thing come from? Gong Xiaozhu screamed in pain, totally ignoring Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened, but it was covered with a layer of viciousness. Don't want to say? That's all right. Even if you don't say, Wui also knows where this thing came from. She reversed the dagger and stabbed it into Gong Xiaozhu's body. The blunt blade was only able to pierce in with brute force. It was so painful that Gong Xiaozhu let out a heart-wrenching howl. Yiqing Luo picked her ears and gave him a fierce kick. Gong Xiaozhu's body rolled to Qiao Jin's feet like a piece of trash. Here, I'll leave it to you to play with. Qiao Jin carried Yin Xiao Yi as he stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking, until Yiqing Luo spoke to him. Only then did he come back to his senses. His eyes suddenly lit up. Carrying Yin Xiao Yi, he rushed towards Yiqing Luo. She didn't even bother to take a look at Gong Xiaozhu, who was on the ground. Qing Luo, you can save Xiao Yi, right? You can definitely save Xiao Yi, right? He lowered his head and looked at Yin Xiao Yi, whose face was pale, but she forced herself to open her eyes. Look at Xiao Yi. She doesn't seem to have a simple internal injury. Yiqing Luo received Yin Xiao Yi from his arms. He laid it flat on the ground. As she felt her pulse, she raised her head and stared straight at Qiao Jin. Speaking of this face of yours is actually quite good-looking, just a little worse than my Xian. Don't cover your face in future. Our group is filled with handsome men and beautiful ladies, so don't spoil our group's image. Qiao Jin, he didn't have the mood to discuss about his face, all right? TSK. Xiao Yi, you're too reckless. Yiqing Luo felt her pulse and clicked her tongue as she took out a bottle of medicinal pills from her arms and stuffed it in her mouth. You obviously know that your body is already in such a state, yet you still forcefully revolve your profound jade heart. Are you trying to self-destruct? End of this chapter. Chapter 4605. Yin Xiao Yi didn't say a word as she allowed Yiqing Luo to feed the medicine into her mouth. Qiao Jin, who was by the side, upon hearing this, went into a daze as he frantically knelt by Yin Xiao Yi's side, looking at her anxiously. Qing Luo, is it that Xiao Yi's body has a very serious internal injury? I knew it. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let her forcefully circulate the power of the profound jade heart. Qing Luo, you must save Xiao Yi. Only you can save her. Qiao Jin seemed to be possessed by a demon, repeating these words nonstop from his mouth. His eyes were filled with fear and worry. Yiqing Luo, Yin Xiao Yi. He must be an idiot. Yiqing Luo stuffed the pill into Qiao Jin's hand and rolled her eyes at him. Then she stood up and was about to leave. Qiao Jin pounced forward in panic as he hugged Yiqing Luo's thigh. Qing Luo, don't go. Save Xiao Yi. You can definitely save her. Yiqing Luo raised her eyes and looked not too far away at that man who was squinting his peach blossom eyes, looking at them with a smile which didn't look like a smile. She shuddered violently and retracted her leg. Xiao Jin, after you took off the human face, did your IQ drop as well? If you want a hug, hug your Xiao Yi tightly. After withdrawing his leg, he decisively ran towards the emotion. Her big vinegar jar was about to be overturned. If he spoke a few more words with Xiao Jin, she reckoned that Xiao Jin was in danger. Concern leads to confusion. It was a mess. He was like a retard. Xiao Jin still wanted to pounce over. Huang Fu Sheng, who was next to him, pressed him back. Gu Zishi gently explained, "Don't be nervous. From what Aluo said, Xiao Yi should be fine. If something really happened to Yin Xiao Yi, Yiqing Luo's attitude would absolutely not be as relaxed as it was now." Xiao Jin blankly hugged the pale-faced person in his arms. Really? Do you think Aluo wouldn't be worried about Xiao Yi? Gu Zishi threw the question back. Of course I'm worried. It was a question that didn't require much thought. After blurting it out, Xiao Jin seemed to come back to his senses. Yes, Xiao Yi is fine. Xiao Yi is fine. He murmured and lowered his head, pressing his forehead against the woman's. Have a good rest. I'll be by your side. Gu Zishi looked at the two people hugging each other, stood up slowly, and walked to Huang Fu Sheng's side. How do you plan to deal with Gong Xiazhu? Gu Zishi squinted her beautiful eyes and walked slowly to Gong Xiazhu. That dagger should belong to the Palace of Darkness. Huang Fu Sheng carefully followed behind her, remaining vigilant. I can't believe that the Palace of Gloomy Abyss could actually take out something to target the Huang Fu family. Gu Zishi's face darkened. Sheng, I have a feeling that more dangerous things will happen later. The higher we climb, the more dangerous it will be. This is unavoidable. Huang Fu Sheng rubbed Gu Zishi's head. We have Aluo's help now, but in the future, it'll be just the two of us. Gu Zishi turned around, put her arms around his neck, and lowered his head. She looked at Huang Fu Sheng sincerely and seriously, saying word by word, I will always be with you. While the two of them were talking, but they didn't discover that Gong Xiazhu, who was originally lying on the ground twitching, suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with an insane jealousy. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 4606. She jumped up from the ground with a whoosh. Following that, she stretched out her hand to her chest and grabbed that blunt knife that was buried in her body. With a violent tug, blood spurted out from her body. The smell of blood was thick and fishy. Gong Xiazhu didn't mind. She grabbed that bloody dagger and stabbed it towards Huang Fu Sheng's back. Go to hell. Go to hell. She screamed madly as her expression turned into madness. Her mental state was no longer normal. A black flowing light flashed past. The cold glint carried a strong, murderous intent as it surged in all directions. By the time Gu Zishi sensed the danger, it was already too late to block in front of Huang Fu. Bam! Gong Xiazhu pounced forward. In the next instant, it was as if it had been bounced off by something. She fell heavily onto the ground. This fall caused Gong Xiazhu to spit out blood. The blood in her body flowed all over the ground. She almost fell into a state of dizziness. How could this be? How could this be? Why, wasn't it Huang Fu Sheng who was stabbed by her with that dagger? Why was it her again? She was the one who got injured again. I said you're stupid. You're really stupid. Not too far away, a young lady's contemptuous voice was heard leisurely. Gong Xiazhu's body trembled as she looked towards the direction of the voice. The blood was hazy. She saw the young girl in the red dress looking at her with a smile. Her eyes were filled with ridicule and ridicule. Since I dared to return that dagger to you, naturally I've made full preparations. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. I used the Azure Dew Ring to set up a very simple barrier on the both of them. That dagger was only used to deal with the Huangfu family, but towards ordinary people and other forces, it had no effect at all. Gong Xiazhu was already in a state of panic. She could only follow her instinct and stab the black dagger into Huang Fu Sheng's body. But the black dagger couldn't break the barrier of a divine relic, even if it was the simplest barrier. That dagger couldn't even get near to Huang Fu Sheng and Xiao Jin. Gong Xiazhu's throat was filled with blood, and she was so angry that she vomited blood. Gu Zishi was still in shock and protected Huangfu Sheng behind her. Her face was still slightly pale as she stared fiercely at Gong Xiaozhu. Almost just a little bit more. The dagger fell on Huangfu Sheng's body. It was a dagger specifically targeted at the Huangfu family's bloodline. If it really pierced into Huangfu Sheng's body, she didn't dare to think too deeply about it. A ruthless killing intent flashed across Gu Zixi eyes. She lifted her leg and stomped on Gong Xiaozhu's chest. Blood immediately gushed out from the wound caused by the blunt knife. Huff, huff, huff. At this moment, Gong Xiaozhu couldn't even speak. Large mouthfuls of blood gushed out of his mouth. Little Huangfu Sheng noticed Gu Zixi's intention and frowned slightly. Gu Zixi patted his hand lightly. Regardless of whether we killed Gong Xiaozhu or not, the royal family will not let us off. This kind of person will only be a scourge if we keep him. Originally, Yiqing Luo could easily kill Gong Xiaozhu, but she left Gong Xiaozhu with a breath of life. She wanted them to take revenge on their own. To vent this resentment, Gu Zixi raised that blunt knife and stabbed into Gong Xiaozhu's neck without any hesitation. The blunt knife entered the skin. It was very difficult. Gong Xiaozhu was in extreme pain. However, Gu Zixi was ruthless. She directly killed Gong Xiaozhu. Chapter 46:07. The moment Gong Xiaozhu died, the rest of the cultivators were easily dealt with. After a moment, Yiqing Luo led the few of them as they left this abandoned 7th courtyard. Not long after the few of them left, a red figure slowly walked into the courtyard. That man's expression was icy cold, without any emotions. His gaze was indifferent as he looked at the surroundings. The ground was filled with corpses as blood stained the ground. The air was filled with a pungent smell of blood. That man's brows creased tightly. A strange glint flashed past his icy cold eyes. We chased after them for thousands of miles, but didn't see anyone at all. A clear female voice was heard from outside the courtyard. That lady's eyes stared intently at that man. They just left not too far away. If you want to chase after them, then go ahead. That man didn't say a word as he stood silently on the spot. His gaze stared at a certain spot without blinking. If Yiqing Luo was around, she would definitely sense the direction which that man was looking at. It was exactly where she was standing in the courtyard earlier. Exactly the same. She looked for a place to settle down, not too far away. After Yiqing Luo chased Xiao Jin out, she asked Gu Zixi to help Yin Xiao clean up her body and conveniently applied medicine for the both of them. After she tidied up everything, Yiqing Luo then let Xiao Jin in. Walking out of the room, Yiqing Luo nestled into Mo Xian's arms. Huangfu Sheng also came out after changing his clothes. Do you have any news of Ajan? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. She didn't know if the current Long Yunzhan was in a conscious state or in a controlled state. To tell the truth, Yiqing Luo hoped that he hadn't regained his consciousness. Otherwise, to Long Yunzhan, if he knew that he had personally stabbed her, probably he was unable to walk out from the guilt. His state of mind could easily collapse. When she mentioned Long Yunzhan, that hand which was encircling her waist suddenly tightened. The man's frosty aura also grew heavier. Yiqing Luo patted the back of his hand. Ajan hurt me, but it wasn't out of his own will. I didn't care about his body and didn't notice that he had been controlled by the people from secluded palace, so you can't blame him. Saying that, Yiqing Luo lowered her eyelids. Moreover, Ajan is my contracted human dragon. How could he possibly do anything to hurt me? Huh, the man sneered. Contract. Huangfu Sheng seemed to have thought of something. There is a contract between the two of you. You should be able to sense his existence, right? Or do you want to try calling him? Yiqing Luo shook her head. I've tried. It seems like the connection between me and him has been cut off. I can't even sense his existence in my spiritual contract. It was as if the contract between her and Long Yunzhan had been removed. But like their blood contract, it was impossible for the contract to be rescinded, unless the one who was contracted was dead. This thought made Yiqing Luo's face turn pale with a swoosh. She quickly shook her head. No, that's impossible, even in death. As the contractor, she would definitely be able to sense it. Secluded Palace has already thought of a way to deal with you. So naturally, they will use a special method to cut off the connection between you and that fellow. The man behind her spoke in a chilly tone. His large palm covered the young lady's head. Don't let your imagination run wild. Yiqing Luo's head leaned into Mo Xian's arms. I'm just worried. Moreover, Ziqing had run off to chase after Ajan. Over at Secluded Palace, they can't wait to capture everyone around me. No pop-up window. Chapter 4608. Life and death are fated. This is her own choice. Even if she dies, it has nothing to do with you. Mo Xian's slender, jade-like fingers lifted her chin. Her half-squinted eyes were overflowing with beauty, projecting a faint light. Yiqing Luo could tell that he was angry. It was a fact that Long Yunjian had injured her. To Mo Xian, this was an unforgivable matter. Yiqing Luo also raised her hand and rubbed Mo Xian's face. Don't be angry. When they come back, I'll make them kneel down and apologize to me. I'll even take the whip and whip them harshly to teach them a lesson, to vent my anger. All right? Those words, which sounded like she was coaxing a child, made Mo Xian's eyes sink even deeper. The hand he used to pinch her chin used a little force to pull the girl closer. The man's handsome face was deeply imprinted in the girl's eyes. His thin lips moved closer to her ear. The warm air seemed to be able to soak people. It's useless to say such unrealistic things. The man's deep and mellow voice faintly entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Inexplicably, there was a hint of temptation. Yiqing Luo's face heated up slightly. Even her body started to heat up. If you want me to let him go, it's not impossible. As he continued, his voice grew softer and softer. Everything depends on you. Yiqing Luo, she fiercely pushed Mo Xian's chest away and glared at him with a blushing face. This man, she really didn't care about the occasion, saying such ambiguous words. Cough. Huang Fu Sheng stood up awkwardly. Everyone is tired. We're finally safe. Why don't we go back and have a good rest? We'll look for Brother Long tomorrow. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. These few days, she was almost crippled by Gu Jingyu. He had a good rest. However, Huang Fu Sheng and the others must be on tenterhooks these few days. In addition, Yin Xiao, he was injured. He had experienced another battle where he almost lost his life. He hadn't rested for a long time. It was indeed time for a good rest. Yiqing Luo nodded and let the both of them rest. However, there was clearly something wrong with the look in their eyes when they left. Looking at her and Mo Xian blatantly. His eyes were full of undisguised ambiguity. Yiqing Luo, they must have misunderstood something, right? He stayed in the new courtyard for 2 days. Yiqing Luo specially looked for a place near the courtyard, which Gong Xiazhu was looking for. He could also go ask around and pay attention to whether or not anyone from the Dark Abyss Palace came to ask for news. But 2 days passed. It wasn't just the Palace of Gloomy Darkness that didn't send anyone to investigate. Even the commoners who lived nearby did not seem to notice what was happening in the courtyard. Everything was calm. It gave Yiqing Luo a feeling of the calm before the storm. These 2 days, Huang Fu Sheng and the other 3 stayed in the courtyard to recuperate. The barbaric Bloodbone King and her, as well as Xian, were nearby, searching for traces of Long Yunjian's whereabouts. At the same time, he inquired about the recent situation of the Heaven Realm. Everything was as Yiqing Luo had expected. After Ren Jining took control of the Ren family, she slowly gained control of the royal family. The current royal family could only be regarded as a puppet. Ren Jining needed a justifiable reason to unify the Heaven Realm and become the new sovereign of the Heaven Realm. But Ren Jining had not given up on searching for Ren Jiaming's whereabouts, as though she didn't want to kill Ren Jiaming. Her position as the sovereign of the Heaven Realm would not be stable no matter what. Chapter 4609. Thinking of Ren Jiaming. Yiqing Luo then thought of old man Tsang, who was lying on the ice bed, unable to regain consciousness. She clenched her fists as she sighed softly. There were still many things that she needed to do. After Yin Xiaoyi's body had recovered a little, then they would leave this courtyard and head directly to the old city. If she faced Run Jianying head-on, then there was a possibility to force out the mastermind of Secluded Palace. In the room, Yin Xiaoyi stared blankly at the man who was busy in the room. That handsome face swayed in front of her eyes. Familiar, yet unfamiliar. What are you looking at? There's nothing on my face. Xiao Jin looked at her fixed gaze as his thin lips curled upwards, smiling lightly as he sat by her bedside. He stretched out his hand and pinched her slightly cold hand, holding in his own. Why is your hand so cold? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? I'm fine. Yin Xiaoyi lowered her eyes to look at that big palm. Qing Luo's medicinal pill has the best effect. My body is much better now. Perhaps tomorrow I might be able to get up. That wide and thick palm held her hand tightly. Between his nostrils was a man's breath. It was a familiar warmth. She sighed softly as she slowly raised her head. Her fair and slender fingers touched the corners of Xiao Jin's eyes as she said with heartache, Look, you have dark circles under your eyes. Since she was injured, Xiao Jin had been taking care of her without any care. She practically didn't sleep much. That handsome face, that patch of greenish black under the corners of his eyes was extremely obvious. The main reason why Xiao Jin's human skin fell off. It was because he hadn't tormented his own face for several days. And he didn't bother to adjust that human skin. Human skin was, after all human skin, a fake face. It had not been taken care of for a long time. Naturally, problems would arise. Later on, he released the Huangfu family's bloodline energy. The human skin was shaken off. Xiao Jin didn't mind as he held her hand in his palm once again. I'm fine. But you still want to help me when you're injured? You really don't take care of yourself. Yin Xiaoyi's face blushed slightly as she harumphed. Who asked you to abandon me? You're so good looking. What if someone else abducts you? When Xiao Jin heard that, he couldn't help but laugh lightly. He bent down and looked her in the eye. His slender fingers gently hooked her nose. His fingertips were warm, as if he had swept through a ball of fire. The man's breath sprayed on her face. Now that he had restored his appearance, his smile made the woman on the bed blush and her heart race. In the instant that Xiao Jin's face came closer and closer, Yin Xiaoyi suddenly pushed Xiao Jin away and covered her face with the blanket. What happened to Xiaoyi? Are you feeling unwell? Xiao Jin immediately panicked and quickly stood up. He nervously stood by the bed. He wanted to touch the person on the bed, but he was afraid that his touch would hurt her. You wait for me. I'll go look for Qing Luo. I'll go. Just as Xiao Jin turned around, a hand reached out from under the blanket and grabbed the hem of Xiao Jin's clothes. Idiot! What did you say? Xiao Jin didn't hear clearly. I said, you're a fool. Yin Xiaoyi snuggled under the blanket and slowly popped her head out. It's not that I'm not feeling well. Who asked you to seduce me just now? Originally, that ordinary and unremarkable face. Because it was him, so he was able to easily tug at her heartstrings. Today, he had revealed his true face. That kind of handsome as a painting. She couldn't control her own heart. Xiao Jin went into a blank for a moment and immediately reacted as his eyes were filled with a clear smile. Chapter 46:10. You have been charmed by me? His thin lips were frivolous and his smile was very nice. Xiao Jin said that, and Yin Xiaoyi became even more shy as she buried herself into the blanket. The man by the bed smiled, even more happily. His hand gently caressed his face. Between his brows, there was an unconcealable smile. Then his body moved forward. He propped himself up on the woman's body. He looked at the woman under the quilt, whose face was already red. Do you like my face? Yin Xiaoyi was hit by the bed at such a close distance. Her eyes drifted. You look so good and you still seduce me. How can I not like you? Before she could finish her words, the man had already bent down and kissed her lips. Silly girl, this is called seduction. Yin Xiao looked at the man in front of her in a daze. Her eyes were filled with glistening tears. It was also an unconcealable expression. Her lips moved slightly as she mumbled, "I am a patient. You are not allowed to seduce me." Xiao Jin laughed softly as he pulled the woman into his arms. "No matter how I do it, I will not disregard your body." He hugged her in his arms as his face was close to the woman's burning hot face. His low and hoarse voice was clearly transmitted into the woman's ears. "Xiao Yi, it's really great that you like my face." They rested for another 2 days. Bloodbone Barbaric King, who had disappeared for 2 days, returned with a grave expression. "Qing Luo, something happened outside." Yi Qing Luo had a look of understanding. "The Rin family is planning to attack the Earth Realm, right?" "Yes." Bloodbone Barbaric King wasn't surprised that Yi Qing Luo knew about it, as he nodded. "Looks like Rin Jianying's ambition is not only to be the Emperor of Heaven Realm." "Of course." Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly. "She is a woman who wants to rule over the upper realm, just a mere heaven realm. How can it satisfy her ambition? Does she have such great ability?" Bloodbone Barbaric King frowned. "The difference between heaven realm and God realm is not small. Even if she breaks through the laws of Heaven Way, it's not possible to take down God realm." Yi Qing Luo smiled as she shook her head, but Ren Jianying doesn't believe in the existence of the God realm. After so many years, the realm of the gods has already become a legend. In the past few hundred years, no one has ever seen anyone from the realm of the gods. Ren Jianying might not know, but it's impossible for the people behind the scenes of Gloomy Palace not to know. The barbaric blood-boned king's eyes darkened. "I can feel that the person behind the Nether Palace is definitely from the God realm." Yi Qing Luo sat down with a calm expression on her face. Of course he knows, but he won't say anything. Yi Qing Luo poured a cup of warm tea and pushed it in front of Bloodbone Barbaric King as she calmly continued. Rin Jianying thought that she had made use of the Palace of Darkness, but in actual fact, the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness was making use of her to test our attitude. The target of the people behind the Dark Palace has always been me. So, he's forcing me to make a move. Once I make a move, he will have the opportunity to take advantage of me. Yi Qing Luo's hand gently pressed on her heart. The mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness wants to make use of my Divine Phoenix, Profound Jade Heart's body to nourish the Divine Phoenix, Profound Jade Heart, and provide it to him. Or perhaps he wants to obtain the secret of the Emperor of Gods from me. She leaned back on the chair, raised her head, and took a deep breath. This battle, no matter if we stop it or not, to the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness, it's a profitable business. Chapter 46:11. No. The Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at her seriously. The Palace of Darkness has already made your choice. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. There's the aura of the Azure Water Divine artifact over at the Run clan. The Bloodbone Barbarian King's eyes darkened. Feng Ji's vast Water Divine weapon was forged with my help. I'm not unfamiliar with the aura of the vast Water Divine weapon. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed as she abruptly sat up straight. Azure Water Artifact. The people behind Gloomy Palace know that you are collecting Azure Water Divine weapons. The Bloodbone Barbaric Monarch said, "The Palace of Gloomy Abyss gave the Azure Water Divine weapon to Rin Jianying in order to lure you out, to fight with Rin Jianying over the Azure Water Divine weapon. Once they snatched it, it was bound to become a way to stop Rin Jianying's ambition." Yi Qing Luo's eyelids drooped down slightly as her eyes sunk, faintly flickering with a treacherous cold glint. It's not as simple as luring me out. If she remembered correctly, previously, the Dark Forces had also wanted to collect the Azure Water Divine artifact. At first, she thought that the Dark Forces wanted to awaken the King of Darkness. Later, he discovered that the Azure Water Divine armament had another use. After that, Gloomy Palace also began to collect vast Water Divine weapons. However, every time they discovered the vast Water Divine artifact, so she was the first to get it. Furthermore, there was one point which made Yi Qing Luo a little strange. Logically speaking, Before Mother passed away, she should have sealed the 5 pieces of the vast Water Divine artifact set separately. Without the bloodline of a god emperor, the seal could not be removed. He probably couldn't obtain the vast Water Divine artifact. How did the Nether Palace obtain the vast Water Divine weapon? Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly. No matter what tricks the Palace of Secluded Darkness is trying to play this time around, I must make a trip over. The Bloodbone Barbarian King did not say anything to stop him. For him, the vast Water Divine tool belonged to Feng Ge. That was left for Qing Luo, falling into the hands of others, especially the hands of those who had schemed against him. How could he be willing? Yiqing Luo told everyone about her decision. He heard that Ren Jianying was preparing to attack the Earth Domain. Huang Fusheng and Gu Zixi expressions changed drastically. After asking about Yin Xiaoyi's condition and confirming that there were no problems, the group of people immediately set off in a hurry for the direction of the Old City. Old City. A figure shrouded in a black cloak was quietly hiding in the dark, listening to the discussions of the people in the Old City. Now, the Ren family was in power. He was just short of directly addressing Patriarch Ren as the emperor. The people were naturally praising Ren Jianying. The man in the black cloak listened to all kinds of praises in the dark. He almost crushed the stone beside him. Suddenly, a small hand rested on that person's shoulder from behind. The man was startled and grabbed the little hand. The owner of the small hand cried out in pain. Only then did the black-cloaked man see clearly that behind him was a 13 or 14-year-old girl. Her face was covered in dirt, but her eyes were extremely bright. At this moment, it was staring at him unblinkingly. "You? What are you doing behind me?" The black-cloaked man let go of the little girl's hand and asked with a frown, "Why are you squatting here sneakily?" The little girl raised her neck in defiance. The black-cloaked man ignored her and continued walking forward. The little girl skipped to keep up with his footsteps. "Don't go, I know what you're doing." "You're eavesdropping, right? What news do you want to know? Ask me. I know everything." The black-cloaked man's footsteps halted as he looked suspiciously at the girl. "Latest update. No pop-up window, please." Chapter 46:12. What do you know? The black-cloaked man's face was filled with suspicion. The little girl smiled with her bright eyes. "I squatted at the old city gate and asked for food for a few days. No news could escape my ears." The black-cloaked man was silent for a moment. He pulled the little girl to the corner of the wall. "Then tell me, what news have you heard in these few days?" The little girl tilted her head and extended her hand towards him. "If you want to ask for information, you have to give me the crystals first." The black-cloaked man narrowed his eyes. "How can I be sure that the information you gave me is true?" The little girl was silent for a while before she unwillingly pouted her lips. "Then, I will reveal a little bit of information to you." The little girl moved closer. "I heard, 2 days ago, Patriarch Ren sent the imperial family to kill the eldest miss of the Goof family." The black-cloaked man's body suddenly stiffened. "Why to kill the eldest miss of the Goof family?" "I heard that the eldest miss of the Goof family stole an extremely precious item from the Ren family." The little girl rubbed her chin and said, "It sounds like it is related to the Ren family's lifeline." The black-cloaked man's fingers under the black cloak unconsciously clenched into fists. He bit his lips. Then was the eldest miss of the Goof family caught? Of course. The little girl was about to reply. She suddenly thought of something and stopped speaking. She extended her hand towards the black-cloaked man. "I have already told you so much information. Shouldn't you give me the crystals?" The black-cloaked man took out a bag of crystals from his sleeve. "Speak quickly. How was the eldest miss of the Goof family?" The little girl's eyes lit up as she received the bag of crystals. She touched the bag with one hand and took out the crystals with the other. "Of course she is fine. I heard that the people that were sent over are all dead. Even the imperial family's princess, Xia Zhu, died in the hands of the eldest miss of the Gu family." The black-cloaked man seemed to be relieved. "Then, Run. Patriarch Run, do you want to continue to kill the eldest miss of the Gu family? Why are you so interested in the eldest miss of the Gu family?" The little girl stuffed the crystals back into the bag. Don't tell me. You like the eldest miss of the Goo family? The black-cloaked man was stunned. He hurriedly shook his head and said, No, no, I'm just curious. Why is Patriarch Run, who is about to become the ruler of the Heaven Realm, still targeting the young miss of the Goo clan? Didn't I say it already? It's because the first miss of the Goo residence stole something that is related to the Rin family's lifeline. The Rin family wants to take it back. The little girl had an expression that said, Are you stupid? Then he said, Seeing that you've given me enough spar, I'll tell you another piece of news. The little girl lowered her voice and spoke mysteriously. Patriarch Rin seems to have a way to deal with the first miss of the Goo clan. Right now, he no longer plans to kill the first miss of the Goo clan. Instead, he's waiting for the first miss of the Goo clan to come knocking on his door. The black-cloaked person's pupils constricted. You mean the young miss of the Goo clan is returning to the old city? I don't know what method Patriarch Rin used, but I've heard that the young lady of the Goo clan is already on her way to the old city. The little girl patted his shoulder. If you really like the first young miss of the Goo residence, then grab this chance. The black-cloaked person's breathing froze for a moment. He then took out a bag of coins from his sleeves. Let me ask you another question. Do you know what method Patriarch Rin used to make the young miss of the Goo clan come to the old city of her own accord? The little girl was about to speak. Suddenly, her pupils widened and she stared in disbelief behind him. Behind you. Chapter 46:13. What? The black-cloaked man's eyes darkened, and the muscles all over his body began to tighten at this moment. He didn't look back. He wanted to run past the little girl. But just as he moved, a fair hand pressed on his shoulder. It seemed to be gentle. In fact, that fair hand pressed the black-cloaked man so hard that he couldn't even struggle. My good brother, I've finally found you. The soft and graceful voice of a woman came from behind him. In the ears of the black-cloaked man, it was as if death had come. What question do you want to ask me? Just come and ask me personally. I will definitely tell you everything I know. The woman chuckled softly. The black-cloaked man's body tightened even more. His entire face seemed to be covered with a layer of haze. There was no fear, no fear. Run, Patriarch, run. The little girl stared behind the black-cloaked man, unable to believe her eyes. She actually saw the legendary strong woman. Rin Jianying. What did Patriarch Rin just say? Her good brother? Brother? The little girl blinked her bright eyes and looked at the black-cloaked man in front of her in astonishment. Before she could speak, she heard Rin Jianying's extremely indifferent voice. Take her away. Soon, two figures rushed behind the little girl and tried to grab her. Rin Jianying. The black-cloaked man shouted and suddenly reached out to grab the little girl. He moved his body. This time, he easily broke free from Rin Jianying's hand on his shoulder. He pushed the little girl behind him and leaned his back against the wall. He turned his head and looked at the woman who was high above him warily. This movement also caused the black-cloaked man's cloak to fall off his head. A handsome face was revealed. He looked a little embarrassed and haggard. Under his eyelids, there was still a very dark circle. That face wasn't it the long disappeared. Rin Jianying? Jianying. Rin Jianying's red lips curled up slightly, and she called his name softly. I haven't seen you for a long time. Don't you even have the most basic etiquette? Rin Jianying couldn't hide his disgust. Rin Jianying, don't think that I don't know what you want to do. So what if I know? Rin Jianying smiled contemptuously. She slowly raised her palm and tightened her fingers one by one. The entire heaven realm is under my control. Even if you know what I want to do, so what? Rin Jianying walked towards him with a smile. My good brother, after being out for so long, it's time for you to come home with me. Rin Jianying blocked the little girl behind him and slowly retreated. His expression was solemn and cold. His eyes were filled with hatred and coldness. Bah, don't you dare. He swept his gaze across Rin Jianying and then looked at the two guards who were surrounding her. He squeezed the little girl's hand. Run as far as you can later. The little girl was still in a daze, unable to react at all. All of a sudden, she was flung away by a powerful impact. The man's anxious roar resounded in his ears. Run, run. The little girl subconsciously broke into a run. Vaguely, he seemed to see the two guards beside the Wren family head chasing after him. However, they were directly stopped by the man. However, it was obvious that the man was no match for the two hidden guards. In just a moment, he was knocked to the ground by the two hidden guards. However, the man still forced himself to get up and hugged the legs of the two guards. It was as if he was buying time for her to escape. The little girl's running footsteps suddenly stopped. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:14. All right, since you don't want anything to happen to that little girl, as your elder sister, I will naturally fulfill your wish. Ren Jining looked at Run Jiaming, who fell to the ground in a sorry state. Back then, he was a playboy with great talent. At this moment, he was knocked to the ground by two secret guards. Ren Jining's heart suddenly felt carefree. Her red lips smiled even more, and her eyebrows were full of pride belonging to a superior. I have been waiting for you for a long time. You are finally willing to show up. Let's go. I will take you home. Ren Jining walked proudly to the place where Ren Jiaming was lying. She slowly bent down and was about to reach out and pull Ren Jiaming up. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew. Ren Jining's eyes moved, and she quickly retreated. However, there was still something that pierced the skin on her face. There was some slight tingling. Ren Jining raised her head and reached out to touch her cheek, but there was no wound. It was as if the stinging pain just now was just an illusion. Ren Jining frowned. Her intuition told her that something was wrong, but she couldn't feel what was wrong. She narrowed her beautiful eyes dangerously and looked in the direction of the cold wind. She saw a little girl who looked 13 or 14 years old standing there with a fierce face, glaring at her. I'm warning you, let him go. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. The little girl's threat was not powerful at all. Ren Jining frowned and glanced at the two secret guards. The guards quickly walked toward the little girl. Why are you back again? When Ren Jiaming saw the little girl, his face suddenly turned pale. Didn't I tell you to leave? You were beaten by them because you wanted me to run away, the little girl explained seriously. I can't leave you behind and run away. As she spoke, the two guards had already rushed in front of her. However, the little girl's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, she escaped from the attack range of the two guards. She was still approaching Ren Jiaming. Ren Jiaming listened to the little girl's naive words and didn't know whether to be touched or helpless. He looked at the little girl who had come to his side and lifted him up with an indescribable feeling in his heart. Are you stupid? If I didn't ask you questions, you wouldn't have been dragged into this. Ren Jiaming's breathing was slightly shaky. You don't owe me anything. If you have the ability, then leave this place quickly. I took your crystal stones. The little girl lifted him up. Do you know who the person in front of you is? Ren Jiaming tried his best not to put all his weight on the little girl. Patriarch Ren. The little girl tilted her head, her face filled with innocence and ignorance. I know what you want to say, but I have professional ethics. You gave me the crystal, and you want to sacrifice yourself to protect me. So, even if you're the Ren family head, I can't leave you behind. This little girl, why was she so naive? Ren Jiaming didn't know what to say. He just sighed softly. This little girl is really affectionate. Ren Jining looked at the two people in front of her, her eyes full of mockery. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. I will never separate the two of you. The curve of her red lips deepened. A burst of profound energy shot out from her fingertips. You can't blame me for being too heavy-handed if you're so disobedient. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:15. Don't move. The little girl widened her bright eyes and said solemnly, Don't use your profound energy anymore. Ren Jining chuckled softly. Little girl, are you threatening me? Threat? The little girl thought about it seriously, then shook her head solemnly. No, I'm warning you. Warning? Ren Jining seemed to have heard something extremely funny. You dare to warn me? Yes. The little girl continued solemnly. I'm warning you very seriously. If you don't listen to me, you'll be the one suffering. The coldness and ridicule in Ren Jianing's eyes became even more intense, and the profound light on her fingertips became even more intense. Is that so? Then I'd like to see how you're going to make me suffer. She raised her hand. Profound waves pervaded the surroundings. The air seemed to have solidified. Ren Jiaming blocked the little girl with one hand and pressed his chest with the other. His face turned pale under the oppressive atmosphere. Don't be nervous. She can't hurt us. The little girl patted Ren Jiaming's hand. Believe me, I promise nothing will happen. For some reason, after hearing the little girl's words, his oppressive and heavy heart seemed to relax all of a sudden. His heart also calmed down. Inexplicably, he wanted to believe what the little girl said. Her promise was full of power. Obviously, the other party was just a 13 or 14-year-old girl who looked extremely innocent. Just as Ren Jianing's profound waves turned into sharp blades and slashed towards Ren Jiaming. Suddenly, a hurricane surged in the sky. The surroundings were quickly covered by another terrifying aura. Immediately after, Ren Jianing's body was sent flying out of thin air and fell heavily to the ground. Ren Jianing slammed into the wall and spat out blood. Who is it? Ren Jianing wiped off the blood at the corner of her lips with force. Her malicious gaze swept around angrily. What kind of power was this? It actually appeared out of thin air. She didn't even have a chance to react. Now, in the entire heaven realm, who else could fight with her? Who was it? Miss Ren. No, now I should call you Patriarch Ren. A clear and sweet voice floated down. Immediately after, a figure that looked like a blazing flame pushed the hurricane aside and slowly walked over. The girl's footsteps were light and slow. Her dress fluttered along with her steps, like a blooming rose, bright and beautiful. Under the whirlpool-like hurricane that filled the sky, the young girl was like a pure and holy fairy of the ninth heaven. She descended from the sky, causing people to be unable to shift their gazes away, but they also didn't dare to meet her gaze. You took advantage of my absence to bully my people. Since when did Miss Ren like to do such filthy things? Ren Jining heard the contemptuous and mocking voice. Ren Jining's delicate body began to tremble slightly. His malicious eyes stared unblinkingly at the young girl who was approaching. His 5 fingers curled up one by one. There was hatred and panic in his eyes, but there was also an imperceptible excitement. Yes, excitement. Miss Guno, I should call you. Yiqing Luo. Ren Jining slowly stood up from the ground. Even though she was sent flying in a sorry state, she still maintained her noble elegance as she slightly raised her fair neck and spoke arrogantly. You indeed appeared. Patriarch Ren and secluded palace's painstaking arrangements. Isn't it to lure me out? Yiqing Luo's lips curled as her expression was calm and unperturbed. I'm doing as you wish. Patriarch Ren should be happy. Chapter 46:16. Happy. This patriarch is extremely happy. Ren Jining stared at Yiqing Luo as she squeezed out each and every word from between her teeth. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. But Patriarch Ren doesn't look happy. All right, this patriarch is indeed unhappy. Ren Jining's eyes were icy cold, as though there were raging waves in her eyes. The moment you came, you stopped this patriarch and my brother's reunion. No matter who it is, they would not be happy, right? Yiqing Luo raised one finger as she shook her hand. No, I'm very happy. She smiled as her eyes curved as she walked to Ren Jiaming's side. Didn't I tell you to wait for me to come back? Why did you run out alone? Her suspicious gaze, as she looked at the young lady behind him. Could it be because of this young lady? No. Ren Jiaming anxiously opened his mouth to explain. She and I just got to know each other. She sells information. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Just got to know each other, but for you, She's not afraid of Ren Jianying's threat. She's quite a bold young lady. As she said that, she looked at the young lady with admiration. The young lady's eyes widened as she stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Hearing Yiqing Luo's praise, the little face turned red. I'm just doing my duty. Not as good as what you said. That look made Yiqing Luo want to rub her furry head. Young lady, why were you so sure that Patriarch Ren wouldn't be able to hurt you? Yiqing Luo pushed Ren jamming aside as she hooked the young lady into her arms. This young lady looked very innocent, not like someone who would do things to scare others. The young lady must have her reasons for saying that. Furthermore, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision glanced at Ren Jianying as a glint flashed past her eyes. If she didn't see wrongly, Ren Jianying's condition was not right, especially earlier when she released her profound energy. She easily broke through Ren Jianying's attack. This wasn't like Ren Jianying's condition. I'm not called young lady. I'm Yao Xinxian. When a young lady saw Yiqing Luo's devastatingly beautiful face at such a close distance, a sliver of infatuation flashed past her eyes. He even stuttered when he spoke. The infatuation in the little girl's eyes. It wasn't a disgusting obsession, but from the bottom of his heart, he had taken a liking to her face. All right, this little girl was also a fan of looks. Yiqing Luo pinched her cheek. Meow. Big sister, you can call me Xianxian. The little girl, Miao Xuanxuan's eyes were sparkling with happiness. Good girl, Xianxian. Yiqing Luo gave a meaningful smile. I roughly understand why you're so certain that she won't hurt you. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes shone even brighter, just like a resplendent star in the night sky. Big sister, you found out? Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. What are you talking about? Ren Jianying's face darkened as she listened to their conversation. Do you think that you can scare me just by acting mysterious? Yiqing Luo narrowed her long and narrow eyes as she tried to provoke her with a smile that didn't look like a smile. We don't talk in riddles, so let me tell you the answer personally. She pushed Miao Xianxian into Ren Jianying's arms. Immediately after, she leapt up. The glower flame fan on her fingertips opened up, sweeping across a large area of raging flames. A swoosh sound was heard. The profound rays were like scattered flowers as it attacked towards Ren Jianying. She struck when she said she would, without any hesitation. Chapter 46:17. Ren Jianying sneered, courting death. She raised her palm to counterattack, full of confidence. But just as her palm met Yiqing Luo's profound ray, she sensed that something was amiss. Her eyes widened in terror. She wanted to withdraw her hand to evade, but her body couldn't react in time. With a bam, the blazing red ray, majestic and powerful, directly broke through Ren Jianying's palm wind, falling onto Ren Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's body flew out from the impact, crashing heavily onto the wall. Cough! Cough, cough! She coughed out a large mouthful of blood, both her hands propped against the wall. Her body was weak and powerless. She raised her head, her eyes staring venomously at Yiqing Luo. What did you do to me? Ren Jianying's heart was filled with terror. When she made her move, she realized that her profound energy was totally unable to gather, unable to be transferred as she wished. No, to be more accurate, it was her profound energy that was draining away bit by bit. Ren Jianying's eyes revealed a chilly glint as she gritted her teeth and stared at Yiqing Luo. She remembered it clearly. Yiqing Luo was a poison expert. This must be Yiqing Luo's doing. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes as she floated down from midair. She shook her head innocently. I didn't do anything to you, Patriarch Ren. Don't malign a good person. It must be you. It must be you. Ren Jianying's fingers were clenched tightly, as her internal organs had been shaken by that wave of profound energy earlier, and were all injured. Her expression sunk slightly, as a faint cold glint surfaced in her eyes. Her hand suddenly reached into her bosom, as she fished out a signal flare. Her gaze stared vigilantly at Yi Qing Luo, but she saw that the other party had no intention to stop her. Yi Qing Luo even smiled as she reminded, "Throw it carefully. Do you have the energy to throw in your current state? Don't suffocate yourself." Ren Jianying held onto the signal flare tightly, as her exquisite face was twisted. "Eldest young Miss Gu, we can't let her call the Ren family over. Now is a chance. We should capture her." Ren Jianying pursed his thin lips tightly as he looked at Ren Jianying with a complicated gaze, while giving Yi Qing Luo a suggestion. Yi Qing Luo shook her finger. Don't panic. Even if we stop her, I'm afraid there's no way to catch her today." The Palace of Darkness had used bait to lure her out. Naturally, he had made sufficient preparations. How could he let her take away this bait so easily? Even if Ren Jianying didn't take out the flare, in the end, he would probably be taken away by the people from the Nether Palace. There was no need for her to waste her time and heart to stop him. Ren Jianying did not understand the reason behind it. He clenched his fists and said, "If we let her go, it would be releasing a tiger back into the mountains. Now that she knows that you're back, she'll definitely take precautions. Little friend, don't be so anxious." Yi Qing Luo was about to pat Ren Jianying's shoulder before his hand fell. Then she was stared at by a scorching gaze that made her hair stand on end, and she retracted her hand. Yi Qing Luo looked towards the direction where the gaze came from and smiled, until that scorching gaze calmed down. Yi Qing Luo then looked towards Ren Jianying as her expression turned more serious. "Even if Ren Jianying is brought back, I'm afraid she won't feel good." Ren Jianying went into a blank. Poisoned her? Looking at Ren Jianying's condition, it looked like she was poisoned. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes. "How can you guys malign me like this? I'm such a kind and gentle person. Would I poison someone?" Ren Jianying replied, "Yes." The group behind him replied, "Yes." Ren Jianying replied, "If you didn't poison me, would I become like this?" Chapter 46:18. Yi Qing Luo. Couldn't she cooperate a little more? "You're not poisoned." Yi Qing Luo looked at Ren Jianying, "But it's worse than being poisoned." Ren Jianying had already thrown out the signal flare in her hand, while Yi Qing Luo and Ren Jianying were talking. She stuck close to the wall, panting heavily as she stared at Yi Qing Luo vigilantly. "Yi Qing Luo, do you think that by poisoning me, you can solve the Heaven Realms matter? I'm telling you, it's impossible." She caressed her neck with her hand. A wisp of coquettish red light floated faintly. Yi Qing Luo's fingertips moved. A scorching feeling surged in her palm. It was the reaction of a divine relic. The reaction of the Azure Dew Ring, Azure Dew Pendant, and Azure Dew Chain. Ren Jianying was displaying the power of a divine relic. Yi Qing Luo's pupils shrank unconsciously as her brows creased. This wasn't right. How could Ren Jianying use the power of a divine relic? Didn't the divine emperor's blood have to be used before it could be used? Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as the glower flame fan suddenly moved. Her 5 fingers suddenly grabbed towards Ren Jianying's neck. Ren Jianying was prepared as she suddenly rolled. Following that, he grabbed the guard beside him and pushed him towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. At the same time, Ren Jianying's fingertips were surrounded by a faint red glow. "You want this? You can try." Ren Jianying gently caressed the brilliant necklace on her neck. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's change of expression, she finally felt the pleasure of being in control. Azure Dew Chain. Barbaric Blood King was right. Ren Jianying indeed had an Azure Dew divine relic in her hands. As the Azure Dew Chain's light became more and more intense, Ren Jianying released the power of the divine relic. Little by little, it surrounded her body. There was no attack. It wasn't meant to be on guard. But Yi Qing Luo could feel the power of the divine relic, emitting fluctuations. What was Ren Jianying trying to do? Last, not good. Old Man Song's voice suddenly rang in her mind. His voice was very heavy. "That is a forbidden art. Evil Spirit Summoning. Evil Spirit Summoning? Such a Chinibu name? Evil Spirit Summoning isn't summoning evil spirits to do battle, but using the evil spirit aura to summon the same kind. Old Man Tsang said solemnly. Summoning his own kind? Yiqing Luo knitted her eyebrows as she still hadn't digested the meaning of Old Man Tsang's words. Just then, the azure water ring, azure water chain, and azure water pendant became even more restless. It seemed like it was about to leave his hand and rush towards the azure aqua light chain. Yiqing Luo's mind suddenly sobered up. What you mean is, Ren Jianying had executed the evil spirit summoning, using the azure aqua light chain as a medium to summon the other azure aqua artifacts. That's exactly what I meant. Old Song was deeply worried. Once the Azure Water Divine artifact in your hands is summoned over, the Azure Water Divine artifact will no longer belong to you. Was this Ren Jianying's motive? Was this the goal of the secluded Darkness Palace? Did he want to obtain the vast Water Divine artifact from her? Yiqing Luo's 5 fingers clenched tightly as her fingertips pressed onto the Azure Dew ring and the silk chain. That belonged to her mother. No one should even think of snatching it. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept over the guards who had rushed over and lowered her voice. Protect yourselves. I'll go settle that woman. Sister. Miao Xianxian suddenly went forward and pulled Yiqing Luo's arm. Sister, don't worry. I have a way to stop her. When Yiqing Luo turned back, she saw Miao Xuanxuan's bright and innocent smile. Chapter 46:19. Immediately, Miao Xianxian raised her hand. Her slender fingers touched something in her palm. Not too far away, Ren Jianying, who was casting the spell, suddenly turned pale and a mouthful of blood gushed out. Her entire body started to twitch. Yiqing Luo. Her hoarse voice screamed Yiqing Luo's name venomously. Her voice was filled with agony. At the same time, the agitation of the vast water divine weapon gradually subsided. Well done. Yiqing Luo touched Miao Xuanxuan's little head. I'll give you the crystal later. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes were filled with smiles. If it's sister, then there's no need for any reward. It was Xianxian who took the initiative to help sister. Ren Jianying, what differential treatment? Why do you have to collect money from me for asking a few questions? You're not as good-looking as sister, Miao Xianxian said confidently. Ren Jianying, he was a man. Why did he need to be so good-looking? It's you. What did you do to me? What did you do? Ren Jianying apparently heard their conversation as she looked at Miao Xianxian with a complicated gaze. Her internal organs felt like they were being gnawed by something. She couldn't bear the pain. This pain, it didn't seem like she was poisoned. What did that young lady do to her? When did she do it? Miao Xianxian was frightened by Ren Jianying's heart-wrenching roar and her sinister look as she shrank back. Yiqing Luo shielded Miao Xianxian behind her, blocking Ren Jianying's crazed gaze. Patriarch Ren, aren't you a little too confident in your ability to predict the major events of the future like the back of your hand? Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she laughed coldly. He allowed the guards of the Ren family to rush over and surround them. Her expression didn't show any signs of panic. Ren Jianying's expression changed again as her fingers clenched tightly, suppressing the intense pain in her body. Yiqing Luo mentioned her secret again. Once again, she told him her secret openly. This was the secret she relied on to survive. She must not let Yiqing Luo continue. Yiqing Luo took in all the fluster in Ren Jianying's eyes. Yiqing Luo sarcastically tugged her lips. Don't worry, I'm not too interested in your matters. I'm just reminding you. The present is no longer the future that you once knew. Are you sure that you can really be the final winner? The mockery in her eyes deepened as she looked at the young lady behind her. Master Ren, this young lady, her surname is Miao. Ren Jianying was still in shock over what Yiqing Luo said. Suddenly, he heard the last sentence. Her brain was in a whirl. Trash. Suddenly, a sinister and hoarse voice came from not far away. The guards of the Ren clan retreated and opened up a path. A man in a black robe slowly walked over. That person's entire body was surrounded by an evil aura. His skinny face seemed to be propped up by a few bones. It was extremely strange. A thick black mist surged in his eyes. What a dense Yi Qing Luo frowned. This was the first time she had seen such a dense, evil aura. It made her extremely uncomfortable. Just a few sentences, and you've already defeated my will. What use do I have for you? That sinister and hoarse voice made Ren Jianying tremble as she raised her head. The gaze she shot at that person revealed a sliver of fear. Fear? There was actually someone who could make Ren Jianying feel fear? She thought. Ren Jianying thought that she was reborn, so she had nothing to fear. Latest update. No pop-up window, please. Chapter 4620. Yes, rebirth. Ren Jianying was someone who had been reborn. From the first time she heard Ren Jianying mention Ren Jianying, Yi Qing Luo had this guess. From the age of 7, she knew how to act in front of the elders and knew how to grab the business opportunities to develop her own power. She didn't believe that she was a genius. Furthermore, she was able to accurately know what had happened to the various large clans, as though she knew the future. Wasn't that rebirth? Ren Jianying was able to make use of her rebirth advantage to carve out a place for herself in the heaven realm. This was her own method, and Yi Qing Luo wouldn't interfere. But what Ren Jianying shouldn't do was to stretch her hand over to her side. Since she had chosen to cooperate with the Palace of Darkness, he had to accept any unforeseen event for his own choice and his own ambition. Because of her rebirth advantage, she wanted more and more, which eventually led to her ambition swelled. In the end, everything was heading in a different direction from what he had known back then. The current Ren Jianying. What advantage did she have from rebirth? Unfortunately, Ren Jianying didn't understand this logic. That black-robed man walked slowly to Ren Jianying's side and casually pulled her up. Grand Elder. Ren Jianying was in so much pain that her body was twitching. That slut on me. On me. Yes, Gu. Miao Xian. Surname Miao. Miao Gu family. The black-robed man looked at her coldly and threw her onto the ground in disdain. Useless fellow. That man immediately turned his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo and the rest. Finally, his gaze fell onto Miao Xian. Cure the Gu. That sinister gaze and that sinister hoarse voice made one tremble in fear. The young lady was so frightened that she hid behind Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo held the young lady's shoulder lightly and welcomed that grand elder with a smile. Io, the people from the Palace of Darkness are finally willing to appear. Yi Qing Luo. Grand Elder's eyes were gloomy like a poisonous snake. Don't think that just because you've gotten the upper hand repeatedly, you can maintain your good luck. It seems that my luck is indeed very good. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head and smiled faintly. Grand Elder must be careful, don't be killed by my good luck. The Great Elder's eyes grew colder and more terrifying. Don't be too happy yet. Who told you that I'm going to fight you? Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Then Great Elder's meaning is, you want to let that waste fight with me? Yi Qing Luo glanced at Ren Jianying meaningfully. Yi Qing Luo. Ren Jianying's face flushed red from the humiliation as she clenched her teeth and stared at Yi Qing Luo with a distorted expression. The Great Elder just smiled sinisterly. I will make you hand over the divine weapon willingly. He waved his sleeve. Amidst the black mist, a figure slowly appeared before everyone's eyes. It was a man. He was about 20 years old and was dressed in a black robe. He exuded an unapproachable coldness from head to toe. A pair of pure blue eyes, without any emotions, stared at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Leader, Ajan. When they saw that man, Yi Qing Luo and the rest's expressions suddenly changed as they called out that man's name in disbelief. Wasn't that man standing in the black mist, emitting a cold aura, Long Yunjian? It was Long Yunjian whom they had been searching for a long time. Why was he at the Palace of Darkness? Yiqing Luo's eyes stared intently at Long Yunjian. Chapter 46:21. Even if they were standing face to face at such a close distance, Yiqing Luo had not sensed any fluctuation in the blood pact between her and Long Yunjian. The man in front of her, was it Long Yunjian? The both of them had once made a blood pact. As the master's side, she should be able to clearly sense Long Yunjian's spiritual consciousness, as well as his current thoughts. But unfortunately, there was no connection between them. Could it be? Did the Palace of Darkness intentionally create a fake Long Yunjian to deceive her? It wasn't as though the Palace of Darkness had never done such a thing before. But no matter how much she tried to build up her heart and her mind, or how she tried to find excuses, she was unable to deny that the moment she saw Long Yunjian, she had already confirmed that this person was Long Yunjian. It was impossible that she couldn't even recognize her own brother. Even if that person, when he looked at them, there wasn't any expression on his face. That pair of azure blue pure eyes had no fluctuation of emotions. She was still certain. That person was Long Yunjian, her brother who had once fought side by side partner. Long Yunjian, group leader. Yin Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin had already rushed to Yiqing Luo's side as they stared blankly at the man standing opposite them. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. That was their group leader. They had walked all the way from Nirvana Realm, from Devil Class to the current class monitor. But now he was standing opposite them. Against them, Qing Luo. Yin Xiao Yi grabbed Yiqing Luo's arm, as her palms were filled with cold sweat. Is he the group leader? Our group leader? Unable to believe that the person in front of them was the person who had experienced life and death with them. Yiqing Luo didn't reply for a long time. Between her eyes, some kind of emotion was spreading. Yin Xiao Yi's heart seemed to be clutched by a huge palm, as even her breathing became stagnant, unbearable. How could group leader? Could it be that the Palace of Darkness had controlled him? Xiao Jin still had some rationality, as he looked at Long Yunjian with a complicated expression. As he said that, he stretched out his hand to embrace Yin Xiao Yi, as he pressed her little head into his embrace, to let Yin Xiao Yi calm down her emotions. Yiqing Luo shut her eyes slightly, and when she opened her eyes again, that pair of eyes which the wind and the whirlpool had already calmed down, yes. Naturally, it was because he was being controlled that Long Yunjian stood on their opposing side. However, this time, it was different. There were some things that were different from simple control. She held on to Yin Xiao Yi's hand gently and patted it. Leave Ajan to me. I'll wake him up. You guys take care of the others. Don't give Ren Jianying another chance to unleash her forbidden curse. But, can you really do it? These few words were at the tip of her tongue, but Yin Xiao Yi couldn't say them out. Could he bear to do it? Should he do it? What if Yiqing Luo was able to do it? Should she stop it? That was their squad leader, their regiment commander, their comrade. What if Yiqing Luo couldn't bear to do it? Should she help? If Long Yunjian was controlled and repeatedly dealt a vicious blow to Yiqing Luo would have some misgivings. What should they do? What should they do? He had to admit it. The Palace of Darkness was getting better and better at manipulating people's hearts. There was no need for a frontal attack. He had already taken advantage of the relationship that they cared about the most, routed them. Xiao Yi listened to Qing Luo. Xiao Jin held Yin Xiao Yi's little hand tightly as he pulled her. Let's go over and talk to Huangfu Sheng to try our best to stop Ren Jianying. Chapter 46:22. Yiqing Luo's expression was slightly chilly as her eyes stared at Long Yunjian without blinking. The words she spoke were directed at Grand Elder. Now the Palace of Darkness is only left with such despicable methods. Aren't you the clearest about the Palace of Darkness's despicableness? Grand Elder wasn't infuriated. Instead, he gave a cold laugh proudly. When you see your so-called brother standing on the opposite side of you, How will you choose? Will you choose to kill the other party for your own sake, or to fulfill your sentimental and righteous wish, to rather get yourself injured than to hurt him? Ha ha ha. This elder is really looking forward to this good show. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. A pair of treacherous chilly eyes stared straight at Yi Qing Luo, as though he was staring at his prey, just as he was prepared to go up and capture her. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. She took a deep breath to calm her own emotions as her eyes gazed deeply at Long Yunjian. Ajan. She opened her mouth as her voice was slightly low. Since when did it start? Her question made one unable to make head or tail of it. This made Yin Xiao, who was gritting her teeth in anger from Grand Elder's words, looked towards Yi Qing Luo in a daze. What did she mean by since when did it start? Wasn't the current Long Yun Zhan already controlled? How could he possibly answer Yi Qing Luo's question? Just as everyone was filled with suspicions, they heard that expressionless, extremely cold man slowly open his mouth. It was that day. Why didn't you come look for us? Yi Qing Luo smiled when she heard that as she asked again. Long Yunjian's eyes moved slightly, like the ripples on the lake. Now, I'm here to look for you. Looking for me, that means, right from the start, your target is me. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly as her brows were curved. But if one listened carefully, however, one could hear the bitterness and helplessness in her laughter. Long Yunjian went silent, not knowing how to reply. Yin Xiao, who was by the side, couldn't hold it in any longer when she heard their conversation. What do you mean? Qing Luo, what do you mean by that? Isn't Commander being controlled? Why? Listening to their conversation. But it seemed like the leader wasn't being controlled at all. Yi Qing Luo took a look at Yin Xiao as she pondered for a moment and wanted to reply. However, Long Yunjian spoke first. I'm not being controlled. That pair of azure eyes looked at Yin Xiao. It was as if he was looking at a stranger, cold and emotionless. I have been a member of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness since the beginning. This sentence exploded in the ears of Yin Xiao, and the rest with a boom. They stood there in a daze. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. Were they dreaming? How could their most respected and amiable class monitor, who had grown up with them, be someone from the Palace of Darkness? At that time, how could there be a Tengu Palace? Qing Luo, didn't you say that the group leader is being controlled? Why did he say that? Did the people from Dark Shadow Palace force him to say that? Yin Xiao couldn't believe her own ears as she shook her head and anxiously sought confirmation from Yi Qing Luo. This news, if those people in the world group were to find out about it, probably everyone would break down. Looking at Yin Xiao's hopeful and flustered eyes, Yi Qing Luo's eyes dimmed slightly. She lowered her eyes as she replied calmly, yes, he is indeed being controlled, but he's conscious now. Latest update. No pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-23. WH, what do you mean? Yin Xiao, he felt that her brain was unable to wrap itself around it. His eyes are very clear and very calm. There's no struggle, no unwillingness. Yi Qing Luo's tone turned solemn. Clear meant that his consciousness was clear and not that empty and soulless state after being controlled. Calm meant that under the condition that he was conscious, he accepted himself standing on the opposite side of them. No struggle, no unwillingness meant that there was nothing controlling his thoughts or willpower. Long Yunjian was willing to stand on the opposite side of them. Group leader Yin Xiaoyi's heart tightened as her face turned pale. She suddenly looked towards Long Yunjian, opening her mouth. Wasn't to berate, not to question, but, group leader, do you have something that you can't tell us? Did the secluded palace threaten you? Tell us. Tell Qing Luo. Didn't we say that no matter what happens, we will stand by each other's side unconditionally, to face all the problems together? No matter if it was Yin Xiao, or Xiao Jin, or those people who were still in Nirvana Realm, or Earth Realm, the world group. After hearing that Long Yunjian was conscious and was willing to be their enemy, they all believed that Long Yunjian was absolutely not doing it on purpose. Even if he was now willingly standing on the opposite side of them, that was because he had his own difficulties. They believed in their group leader. No, Long Yunjian replied calmly between his brows, was calm and apathetic. I just recovered my memories. Recovered. Memories? Yin Xiao Yi and Xiao Jin exchanged glances as their expressions sunk. Yes, Long Yunjian had lost his past memories. Long Yunjian didn't have any memories before he joined the Devil class in Nirvana Realm. But now, he said he had regained his memories. Regained? Memories related to the secluded palace? I'm from a secluded palace. My motive in Devil class is to wait for your appearance. Long Yunjian looked at Yi Qing Luo calmly. You are my target. Impossible. Yin Xiao Yi couldn't believe that the class monitor, group leader who had fought alongside her, was someone who had been scheming right from the start. How are you so sure that Qing Luo will definitely enter Heavenly Academy? How can you be sure that Qing Luo will enter the Devil class? Xiao Yi, don't say anymore. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath. The expression on her face didn't have much emotion. It was as if she had already guessed all of this. Ever since she saw Long Yunjian again, Yi Qing Luo had already deduced most of the matters in her mind. He doesn't need to be sure, because there's the Gloomy Palace. The mastermind of Gloomy Palace had planned everything. The Palace of Darkness had confirmed that she would enter the Heavenly Academy and join the Devil class. She was not surprised at all. I'm afraid that Ajan's memory loss is also the work of the Gloomy Palace. Yi Qing Luo continued. If Ajan loses his memories, then he will be able to integrate into us and gain our trust, just like now. After that, he would find a suitable opportunity to let Long Yunjian recover his memories. It also allowed him to understand the mission that he had to complete. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly as her eyes stared deeply at Long Yunjian. So, after you've recovered your memories, you've chosen the Palace of Darkness, intending to abandon this period of time and everything that we've experienced. Long Yunjian's emotionless eyes flashed past a slight fluctuation. Very quickly, it disappeared in a fleeting moment. It was so fast that no one could catch it. The fastest update, no pop-up window to read. Chapter 46-24. But Yi Qing Luo, who had been staring intently at Long Yunjian, caught it. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed past a flash of understanding. She curled her lips slightly, as though she was smiling, but there wasn't a hint of a smile in her eyes. On the contrary, it looked a little horrifying. No matter if you're from the secluded palace or not, or what kind of mission you're carrying, but Yi Qing Luo looked at Long Yunjian's blue eyes as she said word by word, you can't deny that you've once fought side by side with Devil Class and the World Group. Long Yunjian, are you sure you want to abandon everything? Long Yunjian's pupils contracted slightly. There wasn't any emotion on his expressionless face, but the hands which were hanging by his side slowly clenched into fists. This elder asked him to come out, not for you to reminisce about the past. Grand Elder originally put on a complacent look when he heard Yi Qing Luo's questioning. No matter what Yi Qing Luo asked, the more Yi Qing Luo questioned, the angrier she got. To force Yi Qing Luo into a rage was not a bad choice at all. But under Yi Qing Luo's questioning, Long Yunjian didn't say a single word. This made Grand Elder's heart sunk. Was he trying to incite Long Yunjian's emotions? Heh, naive, since he made Long Yunjian stand out to deal with Yi Qing Luo. That was 100% certain that Long Yunjian would not be able to incite defection. He had no way to do so. Thinking of this, the great elder's lips twitched as he sneered. Yi Qing Luo, don't waste your efforts. Don't forget. 3 days ago, he even stabbed his long sword into your body. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned cold. Mentioning this point, Long Yunjian's pupils shrunk twice. There were slivers of faint light scuttling in his pupils. Yi Qing Luo's expression sunk slightly as her pink lips pursed slightly. Her gaze was as cold as ice as she looked at Grand Elder. So what? Nothing. Grand Elder laughed sinisterly. I only feel that your so-called brotherhood is really stupid and hilarious. He scoffed lightly. 3 days ago, the sword he stabbed into your body almost took your life, didn't it? If it wasn't for that ingrate, the palace master, who took advantage of the Lord's closed-door cultivation to save you, do you think you could have survived until now? When faced with someone who tried to kill you and nearly killed you in the past, you actually have extravagant hopes that he will change his mind. Are you a fool? After saying that, the great elder could not help but burst into laughter. His laughter was filled with mockery. What? Yin Xiao, Yi, and Xiao Jin's expressions changed instantly as they looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. They knew that Long Yunjian had stabbed Yi Qing Luo, but she had never thought that the injury would almost cost Yi Qing Luo's life. I'm fine. Don't listen to his nonsense. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was still fixated on the changes in Long Yunjian's expression. She acutely saw Long Yunjian after hearing the words of the great elder just now. The expression on his face changed slightly. If she hadn't been staring at it, she probably wouldn't have noticed this subtle change. Nonsense. Grand Elder seemed as though he had heard a joke as he laughed out loudly. You know very well that this elder isn't talking nonsense. And to think that palace master did it for you, I'm afraid. He's going to be tortured by the Lord till he's no longer human. Yi Qing Luo's heart thumped fiercely, as though there was an icy cold hand tightly grabbing onto her heart, squeezing hard, making her feel as though she couldn't breathe properly. She couldn't maintain the calm expression on her face any longer. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-25. Even though she knew that Grand Elder's words were probably to disturb her heart, but she was still affected by Grand Elder's words. Gu Jingyuhe, was it because he saved her, or was he discovered by the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness? Then, was he punished? When Gu Jingyu saved her, she had some guesses in her heart, based on her understanding of the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness. Everything that Gu Jingyu had done, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness should know it like the back of their hand. Only the difference was, the people behind the scenes of the Palace of Darkness didn't want Gu Jingyu to know that he actually knew everything. Perhaps, at that time, Gu Jingyu himself was very clear about it, but he still chose to save her. Ha ha ha. What a good show. Grand Elder didn't hear Yi Qing Luo's rebuttal and counterattack, so he knew clearly that his words had an effect on Yi Qing Luo. Towards someone who hurt you, almost taking your life, painstakingly persuading her, talking about true feelings and loyalty, but ignoring the other person, the person who really saved you. Yi Qing Luo, you're not that kind. Shut up. A furious berating was heard from the side. What followed was a tyrannical, profound wave. Grand Elder's black robe shook. Looking as though it was effortless, he split that profound wave apart. His complacent and savage laughter stopped abruptly at this moment. A pair of long and cold eyes were suffused with a sinister cold glint as he looked towards the direction of the voice. Long Yunjian, you dare to make a move against me? I asked you to shut up. Long Yunjian's pair of pure blue eyes was like the ocean, setting off thousands of huge waves. Numerous waves were surging under his gaze. Evil intent overflowed. He held a long sword in his hand, giving out a clang-clang sound under his palm. You, Grand Elder's gaze, took a look at that long sword. As though he was afraid of something, he retracted his gaze furiously. Long Yunjian, I can't be bothered to say any more, but let me give you a piece of advice. You're no longer the class monitor of Devil Class, nor some group leader of the World Group. Your identity is the Guardian of the Palace of Darkness. If you dare to betray the Lord, you know very well what the consequences will be. After the great elder finished speaking, he threw down his black robe heavily and leaped onto the eaves of a nearby house. With his hands behind his back, he looked as though he was only here to spectate and not participate in the battle. Long Yunjian did not speak. His entire body was surrounded by a vicious aura and dark force. Bit by bit, it eroded the surrounding air. without the great elder sowing discord at the side. The atmosphere between the two of them became extremely gloomy. Ajahn, the girl's voice was not as sweet as it used to be. It was cold and indifferent. Is what he said true? His voice grew softer and softer. It was as if he was afraid to hear the real answer. According to Long Yunjan's understanding of her, Long Yunjan knew what she meant. She was asking if Gu Jingyu's condition was real. Long Yunjan's thin lips moved slightly. He wanted to speak. However, his voice was a little bitter. His ice-cold heart was throbbing with pain at this moment. He would rather be in a controlled state right now, a puppet state. At least he didn't need to face Yiqing Luo. But unfortunately, he was very clear-headed. Very, very clear-headed. So clear that he was standing on the opposite side of Yiqing Luo, listening to Yiqing Luo's questions. His heart felt as though it was pierced by needles. But he was unable to turn back, and was unable to respond to Yiqing Luo's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 46:26. To answer Yiqing Luo? To answer. That would be to confirm the good show which Grand Elder mentioned. A joke. After some time, Long Yunjan's hoarse voice rang, yes. Just one word, as though it was filled with the endless suffering of the world. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her eyes glowed faintly as it revealed some blood color. Ajahn, what you said is, does it mean that from the moment you stabbed the sword, you already knew that sword was smeared with a profound fragrance? Long Yunjan's gaze didn't change, yes. Yiqing Luo suddenly laughed. That laughter was filled with deep sorrow and disappointment. The gaze which she looked at him was no longer the shock from earlier, but calmness without joy or sorrow. Ajahn, I know. Your choice. Her voice was cold and apathetic. That kind of cold and detached attitude. It made Long Yunjan's pupils shrink bit by bit. His heart was in extreme pain. He wanted to speak, but the words which were at the tip of his mouth were kept back into his throat. There was already nothing more to say. Qing Luo. Seeing Yiqing Luo's expression, Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao, he called out Yiqing Luo's name in a fluster. They stared intently at Long Yunjan, unable to believe that in the end, they and their group leader would walk to such a stage. That was their group leader. If it wasn't for Long Yunjan's appearance, they were afraid that when they were in devil class, they would really continue to fall. How would they be able to have such a colorful and glorious life now? Even if they saw it with their own eyes, they were unable to believe that their group leader would part ways with them. Yiqing Luo raised her hand, making an action to stop them from speaking. Following that, her expression was calm as she looked at Long Yunjan calmly. Her pink lips rose slightly, but it wasn't a smile arc, but I'm afraid secluded palace has miscalculated. Long Yunjan went into a slight blank. Yiqing Luo smiled again. You've guessed what I want to do, right? Long Yunjan's expression changed again. Yiqing Luo's gaze went past Long Yunjan and landed on Grand Elder. She revealed a smile that was as bright as a flower. Who told you that if you hand over Long Yunjan, I must fight him? Want to see us kill each other? It doesn't exist. If we can't beat you, can't we run? As soon as the girl's voice fell, deafening explosions suddenly erupted in the surroundings. A profound wave that shook the air rapidly spread in all directions. After the profound wave dispersed, in front of them, where was Yiqing Luo and the rest? F*CK. The great elder's face was ashen, and his facial features were so twisted that he couldn't help but curse. He quickly flew down from the eaves and scanned the surroundings. Where are they? Where is he? He ran away. Long Yunjan stood in place, motionless like a stone statue. Ran away. How could you let them get away? Did you intentionally let them escape? Grand Elder had never seen someone as shameless as Yiqing Luo. The fight hadn't even started, and he was already running away. How could such a large group of people escape in such a short period of time? Long Yunjan lifted his eyelids lightly, his blue eyes as calm as still water. Do you think I can stop a venerable sovereign? The great elder's expression was even more unsightly. He scolded loudly, but there was nothing he could do. He took large strides towards Run Jianying and directly pulled her up. Trash. Meeting Yi Qing Luo, that slut, all of you have become trash. Let's see how you explain to His Highness this time. Chapter 46-27. The instant Grand Elder turned around. He didn't notice that Long Yunjian slowly shifted his gaze toward a certain direction. Slowly, he heaved a sigh of relief. He lowered his eyes as he congealed on the azure-blue long sword in his hand. Luckily, he didn't need to make a move on her again. Luckily, he didn't really make a move. At this moment, Yi Qing Luo and the rest were on the back of the magical beasts. Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian were sitting on Little Nine's back. Chi was carrying the rest of them. They stopped at a rather secluded area in the forest before Yi Qing Luo got Little Nine to find a place to stop. Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao, you were both preoccupied. They had just leapt down from Chi's back as the two of them welcomed Yi Qing Luo. Qing Luo? Group leader he really? Yi Qing Luo recalled Chi back as she randomly found a rock to sit on. Right, if we didn't run earlier, we should be fighting with Ajan right now. Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi's expressions congealed slightly as they pursed their lips tightly, unable to say a single word. They had interacted with Long Yunjian the longest. Their relationship with Long Yunjian was the deepest. Yi Qing Luo didn't participate in the matters before they went to Devil class. But Yi Qing Luo knew. To Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi, Long Yunjian was their salvation. It was Long Yunjian who led them to pull themselves together again, setting up a new goal for them, giving them a new life. Not only the both of them, everyone in Devil class was the same. Why? Group leader is from secluded palace. Until now, Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi were still unable to believe this fact. If this matter were to spread to the world group's brothers' ears, how much pain would their brothers be in? He didn't even dare to think about it. It's my fault. Yi Qing Luo leaned into Dmo Xian's arms. Secluded Palace's target is me, and Ajan is a chess piece of Secluded Palace. It's not your fault. Yin Xiao Yi hurriedly said, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have met group leader. Yi Qing Luo's eyelids drooped as her eyes dimmed. I ran because I didn't want to go against Ajan. She took a deep breath. Secluded Palace really knows how to use the thing that we care the most, and even hurt us. Once? What about the second time? Huang Fusheng looked at Xiao Jin and Yin Xiao Yi's pained expressions and straightforwardly asked the most crucial question. You have to solve the problem of facing him. As a bystander, Huang Fusheng hadn't gone through life and death with Long Yunjian and the others, so he was the one who could tell the problem most directly. I'm afraid that is the goal of the Abyss Palace. Even if Long Yunjian did not complete his mission, his appearance has disturbed all of your hearts. Gu Zishi walked to Yin Xiao Yi's side and hugged her gently. Although Shang's words aren't pleasant to hear, they are the truth. You can be sad, you can be upset, but you can't let yourself be defeated because of him. The few of them fell silent. The two of you, don't be so sad. I didn't even say that I'm going to stand against Ajan. Can you listen to me for a moment? Two voices sounded at the same time. Yi Qing Luo paused her voice and looked towards Miao Xian, who had spoken out earlier. The young lady's bright eyes stared straight at her. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand, asking Miao Xian to come over. The young lady immediately ran over to Yi Qing Luo's side. When she got close to Yi Qing Luo, but she was stopped in her tracks by the man behind Yi Qing Luo's gaze. Chapter 46-28. Don't scare the young lady. Yi Qing Luo gave Dmo Xian a stare and squeezed his palm hard. Perhaps. This is Ajan's savior. Ha! Dmo Xian shot a cold glance at Miao Xian. Savior? The fact that I didn't kill him just now means that I've been patient enough. Yiqing Luo was all smiles as she wrapped her arms around Mo Xian's neck, as she leaned close to his face and planted a kiss. Yes, 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 I know my Xian has been extremely patient because of me. Reward him with a big one. That tone was as though she was coaxing a large-sized dog pet. She was just short of rubbing his head. Unfortunately, Mo Xian enjoyed it. The moment the young lady took the initiative to kiss him, he then mercifully shifted his icy cold eyes away from Miao Xian. He lowered his head tightly and played with the young lady's slender fingers. Come here. Yiqing Luo waved at Miao Xian. The young lady looked at Mo Xian in fear and hesitated. Yiqing Luo smiled. With me around, he won't dare to glare at you. Miao Xian hesitated for a moment before she moved her feet and walked to Yiqing Luo's side. But she didn't get too close. Instead, he stood 2 steps away from Yiqing Luo and stopped. Qing Luo, what do you mean by what you said earlier? We don't need to go against the group leader. Is there any other way to wake the leader up? Yin Xiaoyi's face was filled with anxiety. Don't keep me in suspense. I'm dying of anxiety. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as she winked at Miao Xian. Didn't Xian have something to say? Let's hear what Xian has to say first. Yin Xiaoyi and the rest looked towards Miao Xian in unison. It was rare to be stared at by so many people. The young lady was shy and unnatural as she averted her gaze. Wait. Ren Jiaming couldn't stand it anymore as he walked to Miao Xuan's side and pulled her behind him, blocking Yin Xiaoyi and the rest's gazes. She's just a young lady who sells information and has nothing to do with this matter. Because of me, she has been implicated and offended my eldest sister. When Ren Jiaming mentioned Ren Jianying, he looked very ashamed. He pursed his thin lips. We can't drag her into this anymore. From the moment she sold the information to you, she was already involved. Yin Xiaoyi frowned. This matter has nothing to do with you. Don't interrupt. What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? Ren Jiaming stood in front of Miao Xian to protect her. The young lady is only involved because of me. That's enough. Your regiment commander's matter has nothing to do with the young lady. Can't you see that she's afraid? What do you want to force her to say? Because of Long Yunjian, he was already anxious and frustrated. Yin Xiaoyi had been suppressing her emotions. Now, because of Ren Jiaming's interference. Moreover, he used a blaming tone. Yin Xiaoyi instantly exploded. What do you mean? The guild leader has nothing to do with you, so of course you wouldn't understand our feelings. Since Xian was allowed to speak, it meant that Xian had her own views on the matter regarding the regiment leader. Xian hasn't said anything yet. What are you shouting for? Ren Jiaming's expression froze. Both sides' arrogance was ignited at this moment. At the moment when swords were drawn, a light cough interrupted the two's tit for tat. Can't the both of you wait for the young lady to finish her words? Yiqing Luo's gaze lingered on the both of them. What if the young lady is frightened by your quarreling? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46-29. The two of them looked at each other and shut their mouths. Yiqing Luo pointed at Xiao Jin. Pull your wife back. After that, she looked at Ren Jiaming. The young lady hasn't spoken yet. Why are you so nervous? Why? Have you taken a fancy to her? Ren Jiaming's face flushed red in an instant. Took a fancy to Miao Xian? The person he liked was obviously. Ren Jiaming couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. He felt a burning sensation on his face. He turned around and looked at Miao Xian behind him, wanting to say yes. But when he met the young lady's bright eyes, his face turned even redder. Aluo, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't mean that. You don't need to explain to me. You know what you're thinking about. Yiqing Luo waved her hand with an I understand expression. Ren Jiaming, he was even more confused now. Yiqing Luo looked at Miao Xian with a beaming smile. Her voice was clear and sweet, but it was just a normal chatting tone. Xian, because of Ren Jianming's matter today, I'm really sorry for dragging you into the Ren family's fight. Meow Xian Xian stuck out her little head from behind Ren Jiaming and shook her head vigorously. It's all right, I'm not afraid of her. Now, I'm afraid she's the one who's afraid of you. Yi Qing Luo laughed softly and continued. Regarding my friend's matter, if you're not willing to help, I understand, so you don't need to have any psychological burden. I'm willing. Meow Xian Xian blinked her bright eyes. Why wouldn't I be willing? Do you know, once you're involved in this matter, there's a possibility that your life will be in danger. Ren Jiaming listened to the young lady's innocent words. His heart was filled with worry. He held the young lady's arm with both hands and said solemnly, the enemy we're facing is not as simple as the Ren family's patriarch. There's a more complicated force behind. I know. Meow Xian Xian looked at Ren Jiaming's worried face. She suddenly smiled brightly. She hugged Ren Jiaming with both hands and said in a clear voice, thank you for your concern. I know what you want to say, and I know what I'm doing, don't worry. The young lady's face was covered in dust, and her body was covered in dust. But when she hugged herself, Ren Jiaming felt a soft warmth in his arms. The unique fragrance of a woman seeped into his nose. His heart trembled violently. His body was stiff, and he couldn't react at all. Meow Xian Xian only hugged him for a while before letting go of him. She then looked at Yin, Xiao, Yi, and the others. Actually, I came to the Heaven Realm because of the guild leader that you all mentioned. Let me reintroduce myself. My surname is Miao, and my name is Meow Xian Xian. I'm the next holy lady of the Miao Gu family in the Earth Domain. Miao Gu clan. Yin Xiao Yi looked at Meow Xian Xian in shock. You're the holy maiden of the Miao Gu family. You came to the Heaven Realm for our guild leader? In that case, that was their leader had been poisoned by a venomous insect? That's right. Gu poison. That's right. The Gu poison in Ajan's body has yet to be neutralized. Yi Qing Luo continued the conversation. At that time, I asked little Qing Wu, and she mentioned that the venom in Ajan's body can only be undone by the person who planted the venom in the upper realm. But what does this Gu poison have to do with the fact that the captain is from the Palace of Darkness? Yin Xiao, he tried her best to digest what she had just learned. Could it be that dark secluded palace used Gu poison to threaten the leader? Latest update. No pop-up window, please. Chapter 4630. It's not entirely because of the venomous worm. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. The venomous worm is only a small part of the reason. Based on my understanding of Ajan, if it's only because of the venomous worm, he would rather die than bear to touch us. Then what's the reason? Yin Xiao, he asked anxiously. Ever since Mo Yuing told everyone about Long Yunjan's body being planted with the heart-devouring worm. At that time, Long Yunjan was indeed depressed because of the heart-devouring worm, but because everyone wished for him to stay alive, and because Mo Yuing brought back Yi Qing Luo's words, which made Long Yunjan persevere on. And the heart-devouring worm didn't show any signs of acting up. Everyone gradually let down their guard. And then, until now, Yin Xiaoyi's expression changed. What you mean is, the heart-devouring worm in group leader's body has already acted up? There's a strong smell of the worm on him. Meow Xian Xian nodded, but there seems to be something suppressing his worm so that he doesn't lose his rationality. Yin Xiaoyi's expression suddenly turned pale. Her petite body swayed. Xiao Jin supported her from the side and pulled her into his arms, then looked at Meow Xian Xian. Then do you have any way to help him detoxify the worm? I've heard Ani Meow mention about the heart-devouring worm. This time, I'm under orders from Ani Meow and the family to specially come over to resolve the heart-devouring worm. Meow Xian Xian's head drooped, but I'm not sure if I have any way. Auntie Meow said that the heart-devouring worm in his body came from the most powerful witchcraft family. Only the person who planted the worm can detoxify the heart-devouring worm. I can only try my best, but I can't guarantee if I could detoxify the worm. For a moment, the few of them turned silent. There wasn't 100% certainty. That meant there was danger. In the process of detoxifying the worm, a little bit of danger could cost one's life. Previously, Ani Meow and I were still wondering who it was. Why would they plant such a precious worm on Ajan? Now, I finally understand. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Secluded Palace really thinks highly of me, plotting everything from the start. Now they even used such a precious worm to plot against me. The heart-devouring parasite was definitely related to the Netherworld Palace. In the beginning, the heart-devouring parasite was planted on Long Yunjian, probably because she was worried that Long Yunjian would really develop feelings for her. He could use it to control Long Yunjian. But then, the Palace of Obscurity had underestimated the so-called brotherhood and revolutionary feelings of fighting side by side. Then, he made some other preparations behind the scenes. Don't think too deeply into it. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth to break the silence. Since Aunt Meow and the Meow Goo family invited you over, they definitely believe in your ability, and I also believe that you can do it. But she paused for a moment. Have you guys ever considered that with Ajan's current condition, there's no way he'll cooperate with us to dispel the goo? The others were slightly startled. Indeed. Now, Long Yunjian didn't even have the chance to talk to them, not to mention cooperating with them to cure the goo. How could the Palace of Darkness give them such a chance? Yin Xiao muttered to herself for a moment, and suddenly thought of something as she raised her head to look at Yiqing Luo. Qing Luo, previously why did you say that we won't go against group leader? And the reason why he would stand on the Palace of Obscurity's side is not only because of the heart-devouring parasite. What other reason is there? She asked. End of this chapter. Chapter 46:31. I haven't thought of that yet. Yiqing Luo shook her head. The only thing I can be sure of is, the thing that threatens Ajan is as important as us. Leader, you must be feeling terrible. Yin Xiao lowered her eyelids and leaned her head on Xiao Jin's shoulder. If it was really as they had guessed, the reason why Long Yunjian stood on the opposite side of them, it was because he had his own difficulties. It was only because they were standing opposite each other that they almost started fighting. They were in so much pain and suffering. Then their leader would probably feel even worse than them. Personally stabbing the sword into Yiqing Luo's body almost took Yiqing Luo's life. He forced himself to stand in front of them and face their swords. He even had to hide all of his emotions. Actually, Long Yunjian was in more pain than them. Secluded Palace. Yin Xiao gritted her teeth, pausing between each word. I really want to kill the person behind Secluded Palace. Is he really that happy to play with our feelings? That's because that man will never be able to experience the feeling of being loved. That's why he's jealous. Yiqing Luo comforted him softly. Find a chance to test Ajan. As long as we solve the problem from the root, Secluded Palace's motive will not succeed. What should we do? Yin Xiao asked. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly as a dangerous glint flashed past her eyes. Tonight, Xian and I will head over to the Rin family to check on the situation. You all follow Run, jamming to hide first, in case the people from Secluded Palace find you. Yin Xiao also wanted to follow, but it was also clear, the fewer people there were, the safer it would be. She could only suppress the worry in her heart and agree. You guys have to be careful too. The Palace of Gloomy Shadows is very cunning. Knowing that His Majesty is here, they will definitely take extra precautions. To guard against trouble? I don't think so. Or rather, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was waiting for them to visit the Rin family at night. But this guess, in order to prevent them from worrying, Yiqing Luo didn't say it out. The night was as dark as ink. The night sky was quiet and dense. It gave off a chill that made one's hair stand on end. It was as if he was announcing that there would be no peace tonight. Two silhouettes stepped lightly onto the jade tiles. Everywhere he went, there wasn't the slightest sound, and he floated silently like the wind. In a short moment, the two of them were already standing inside the Rin clan's mansion. The Rin family was silent. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. Not even a single candle was lit. There wasn't even the slightest hint of a human aura. Generally speaking, Families with large forces like these would not be able to afford to offend them. Every night, 2 candles would be lit at regular intervals to illuminate the area. However, the Ren family was in complete darkness. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. Could it be that this was how the Ren family welcomed their night visit? Under the night sky, the girl's bright and charming eyes met the man's. DMO, Xin, locked on her waist and immediately leapt up. With a few leaps, he landed on the other side of the Ren family. It was still quiet and dark all around. There was not the slightest bit of light. But at this moment, a slight sound came from behind him. It was very obvious. There were still people living in the Ren residence. Yiqing Luo and DMO, Xin, quietly approached the source of the sound. He landed in an extremely spacious courtyard. The sound of Ren, Jining gasping in pain, came from inside. Damn the Miao Gu clan, it hurts. There was even a maid comforting her in a low voice. But Ren Jining, who was in extreme pain, how could she hear other people's voices? She was annoyed and furious. And because of the goo worms in her body jumping up and down, the pain was unspeakable. Update complete moi. My computer crashed while I was in agony. It kept crashing and the blue screen kept crashing. The kind of blue screen the moment I turn it on, it's tormenting me so much that I'm about to collapse. Sob, 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 please comfort me. End of this chapter. Chapter 4632. Yiqing Luo. You slut. I will definitely take revenge for this. Ren Jining cursed hoarsely. Her voice was already hoarse from all the shouting. It was Ren Jining's courtyard. From the looks of it, she should be suffering from the goo worm that Miao Xian had planted on her. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly as her lips curled. This was Ren Jining's own trap. She couldn't blame anyone else. But, based on Ren Jining's current status, over at the secluded palace, they should more or less care about her. Why? Ren Jining was suffering from the goo worm and was in so much pain. The secluded palace actually had no intention to help her, leaving Ren Jining to howl in pain. Could it be that they weren't worried that Ren Jining's condition would easily shake the other powerhouses? That hand on her waist wrapped around her waist tightly. The man's boiling hot chest pressed tightly against her back. It made her body immersed in warmth. His entire body was filled with a man's elegant sandalwood scent. DMO Xin bent down slightly as his thin lips slowly moved towards Yiqing Luo's ear. His low voice was like a stream of air as it drilled into her ear. Lil Luo, look at her neck. That ticklish feeling was like a feather tickling her skin, her heart. Yiqing Luo was starting to suspect if he did it on purpose. Knowing that her ear was sensitive, he still moved so close. Yiqing Luo's little hand pushed him, just as she moved. The man seemed to know what she wanted to do as he accurately grabbed her little hand and stuffed it into his big palm. That thin lips by the side of her ear lightly moved again. Look, you're still looking at her neck. Yiqing Luo pinched the arm which was across her waist. After giving a cold humph, she shifted her gaze towards Ren Jining's direction. Just at this moment, her gaze had yet to land on Ren Jining. Suddenly, her waist tightened. The man hugged her, and with a leap, he silently stepped onto the jade tiles. At the same time, a figure which had completely blended into the night slowly appeared at the entrance of Ren Jining's room. Yiqing Luo's angle was just nice to see everything below. That figure, wasn't it the Grand Elder whom she saw in the afternoon? Why did he come to Ren Jining's room? In the afternoon, he was clearly extremely disdainful of Ren Jining, and he didn't seem to care at all. At this moment, he was actually going to visit her at night? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes curled into a devilish smile. She had a feeling that something 18+ was about to happen in the room. Yiqing Luo stuck her little head out and looked into the room. Her head was heavily knocked by the man's well-defined fingers. Yiqing Luo hugged her head and gave him a stare. From below, the servant girl's respectful voice rang out. Great Elder, you may leave. The Great Elder waved his hand, his cold voice sounding even more treacherous in the night. After the great elder stepped into the room, Run Jianying, who was moaning in pain on the bed, also stopped. However, if one listened carefully, one would be able to hear her gasps and muffled groans of pain. The door was quickly closed. Only the first elder and Run Jianying were left in the room. Run Jianying. The great elder's voice was gloomy as he slowly called out Run Jianying's name. The person on the bed shrank slightly, but she stubbornly turned her back, unwilling to look at him. The petite figure trembled slightly on the bed. The great elder slowly walked to the side of the bed. Just as he was about to sit down, Ren Jianying's hoarse voice was heard. Didn't the secluded palace intend to give up on me? Why are you still here for? Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 46:33. The great elder stared at Run Jianying for a while before saying, "Why? Are you blaming me? How dare I?" Taking a deep breath, Run Jianying suppressed the cramping pain in her body and said, "I know myself very well. I know that I am just a dispensable chess piece of the dark nether palace. How can I blame you?" The great elder sat down by the bed. His black robe was scattered beside the bed. He put his hand on Run Jianying's body. Ren Jianying's delicate body trembled even more. To the palace of darkness, you're dispensable. But, to me, you're very important. The great elder used that gloomy voice to say such romantic words. It inexplicably made people have goosebumps all over their bodies. Ren Jianying took a deep breath and slowly breathed out a scorching breath. If you really, really value me, you won't be willing to part with me. How about this? Her body trembled. She couldn't bear the pain. She slowly turned around and looked at the great elder. After all, she was a person who had been reborn. She knew very well how to use her advantage, even if her body was being corroded by the poison and was in great pain. Ren Jianying could still maintain her most beautiful posture. Her face was pale from the pain, but she stubbornly didn't make sound. She looked at the great elder with a pitiful gaze. Immediately, the coldness and ruthlessness on the great elder's body dissipated a little. The great elder stretched out his skinny fingers. His fingertips were full of calluses as he caressed the delicate skin of the woman. He grabbed Ren Jianying's wrist and tapped on her body. Ren Jianying's entire body went limp. She was sweating profusely as she panted heavily. In that instant, the pain in his body finally ceased. That coquettish look made the great elder's eyes burn with evil fire. He grabbed the woman's wrist and suddenly pulled her into his arms. Ren Jianying's delicate body stiffened, but soon softened. "It doesn't hurt anymore, right?" the great elder asked with an evil smile. Ren Jianying nestled in the great elder's arms. Her delicate body seemed to be boneless, sticking softly to the black robe. When she opened her mouth, she was still panting slightly. "It's only temporary." She tilts her head back. Her pale and beautiful face was reflected in the great elder's eyes at close range. There was also sweat rolling down her forehead. 1 ton. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 46:34. It also carried a deathly aura. Ren Jianying's body stiffened. He wanted to avoid it, but he didn't dare to. "Don't talk so much nonsense. While there's still time, let me have a taste of being sick of you first." The first elder's cold and vulgar words rang in Run Jianying's ears. There was still time. Did the Tenyu Palace not intend to let her live? Ren Jianying's eyes were dark under the night sky, and a hint of coldness could be vaguely seen. However, when the great elder bent down, she took the initiative to wrap her arms around the great elder's neck, trying her best to please him. At this moment, Yiqing Luo, who was nestled on the roof, saw everything that happened in the house. He had also heard the conversation between the two of them. But Yiqing Luo's gaze fell directly onto Ren Jianying's neck. The candlelight in the room was dim. He could vaguely see the entangled figures on the bed. Ren Jianying leaned against the bed. His clothes had long been disheveled. A large portion of her fair skin was exposed. Around his neck, there was a necklace with a fiery red light flowing through it. It was extremely eye-catching. That was the azure water chain of light. The azure water light chain that belonged to her mother. Just now, DMO Xian wanted her to look at this necklace. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly as her slender fingers clenched tightly. She would never let Ren Jianying and the Palace of Darkness taint her mother's things. As though he sensed Yiqing Luo's thoughts, the man who was sticking close to her raised one hand and blocked her eyes. There was a faint warmth in his warm palm. The man leaned over and whispered in her ear, "Don't look, it'll dirty your eyes. We'll snatch that necklace back later." He had to snatch it back. However, if he snatched it openly, he might disturb the Palace of Darkness. There's no hurry. DMO Xian hugged her body and brought her away from Ren Jianying's courtyard. The flirtatious sounds in the room gradually faded away. This continued until it stopped on the other side of the Ren residence. The person you're looking for is not in the Ren residence. DMO Xian hugged her tightly. Long Yunjian was not in the Ren residence. Long Yunjian was the person specially arranged by the Abyss Palace to deal with her. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness had finally managed to lure her out. They definitely couldn't let Long Yunjian leave the old city now. Long Yunjian was not in the Ren residence. That meant in this old city. Calm. Wonderful bookstore calm. Chapter 4635. No wonder when Ren Jianying saw Grand Elder, she couldn't help but reveal a fearful reflex action. It turned out that this Grand Elder liked to play with some exciting things. TSK. She was indeed a reborn person. Her psychological quality was really strong. She knew that the other party didn't really care about her. She also knew the other party's bad habits. But in order to achieve her own goal, she voluntarily offered her own body. A woman who was so ruthless to her own family. Indeed, it was easy to succeed if Ren Jianying didn't choose the wrong partner. Perhaps Ren Jianying's ambition could really be achieved. But unfortunately, ambition was bigger than her own ability. And to cooperate with a partner whom she couldn't control, this doomed her to failure. After the maidservant finished packing, she left. Ren Jianying laid in the bedding without moving. If it wasn't for that pair of eyes, occasionally blinking, Yiqing Luo thought that Ren Jianying had been played to death. This filthy thing must not be seen by DMO Xian. Yiqing Luo covered DMO Xian's eyes with both hands and turned towards him. "Wait at the door. I'll go in to get the azure aqua light chain." From the first floor, DMO Xian's vision had been fixed on her, not shifting away for half a second. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, he frowned slightly. The young lady leaned forward and planted a kiss on his face. "I'm not asking you to leave. You stay at the door. If there's a trick, I'll call you." Perhaps that kiss pleased the man. The man released her slender waist. Yiqing Luo was about to enter the room. Suddenly she thought of something, turned around and stared angrily at DMO Xian. "Don't peek at her. Dirty eyes." DMO Xian smiled lightly as he pinched the young lady's cheek. "If I want to see, I only want to see Lil Luo's naked body." Yiqing Luo. Her face blushed slightly as she stared at DMO Xian and entered the room. In the room, the maid lit up the incense to remove the smell. Her footsteps were silent. The person on the bed sensed something. "Get out. No one is allowed to come in." But there was silence for a moment. There was no response. Ren Jianying's suppressed emotions exploded at this moment as she looked over angrily with a hoarse voice. "This patriarch asked you to get out, didn't you hear?" The question mark word had yet to come out. Ren Jianying's pupils constricted when she saw who it was. The expression on his face darkened. "What are you doing here?" Ren Jianying suddenly sat up on the bed. The pain in her body made her suck in a breath of cold air. The bright red marks on his arms seemed to show the humiliation he had just suffered. Ren Jianying immediately pulled up the bedding and covered her skin. "You want to see my joke, right? Now that you've seen it, are you satisfied?" He looked like a wounded hedgehog. She didn't have any of her usual arrogance as a strong woman. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched in ridicule as her eyes revealed an extremely shallow cold arc. You yourself are a joke. Do you need me to specially come over to take a look? Ren Jining pursed her lips and gripped the bedding tightly. She didn't refute Yiqing Luo's words, but used a venomous gaze to stare at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Long Yunjian said that you would come to the Ren family tonight. I didn't expect you to really come. Her voice was filled with unconcealable venom. I should have believed in Long Yunjian's understanding of you and arranged an inescapable net to catch you like a turtle in a jar. Mentioning Long Yunjian, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Ajani said that I would come to the Ren family tonight. Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly as her voice sounded a little dry. TXT 2016 website. Over 100,000. Mobile phone can directly download TXT. Chapter 4636. Hearing the solemnity in Yiqing Luo's tone, Ren Jining laughed coldly as her face was filled with a malicious smile. Do you really think that Long Yunjian still remembers your past relationship? He's from the Palace of Darkness, and right from the start, he's from the Palace of Darkness. His motive is to deal with you. As she said that, she laughed even more maniacally. Long Yunjian is a chess piece which the Palace of Darkness specially arranged by your side. You actually believe in a chess piece? Hoping for a chess piece to develop feelings for you? Ren Jining laughed as her brows were filled with ridicule. Let me tell you, after you left yesterday, Long Yunjian told Grand Elder, based on your character, you will definitely come to the Ren family at night and asked us to take precautions. At this point, the smile on her face gradually disappeared. Her 5 fingers clutched the bedding tightly. If it wasn't for the fact that Grand Elder doesn't believe in Long Yunjian's words, do you think that you can stand in front of me now? Ren Jining's words were like thunder, falling into Yiqing Luo's mind. Bursts of roaring filled her ears. Indeed, based on Long Yunjian's understanding of her, he definitely knew that tonight she would come to the Ren family to look for him. He told this matter to Grand Elder. Did he want Grand Elder to catch her? Long Yunjian was sincere. Or was there any other reason? Only by personally asking Long Yunjian would he be able to get the answer, no matter how turbulent her heart was. Yiqing Luo's expression was as calm and indifferent as usual, without any fluctuation of emotions. But aren't I standing in front of you now? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly as she indifferently got closer to her. And you? How are you going to escape from my hands? Ren Jining's laughing expression instantly froze on her face. Her hands clasped the bedding tightly as her body tensed up. You can't possibly make a move on me. This is the Ren residence, and there are many people from the Palace of Darkness around. If I were to scream, you won't be able to escape. Why don't we try and see if you die first, or if I get caught first? Yiqing Luo smiled as she stood by the bedside, condescendingly looking down at the lady on the bed. Ren Jining's body shifted backwards. Yiqing Luo, don't come over. As for the girl, she slowly approached. Ren Jining, whose eyes were filled with shock, shrank back a little when the young girl approached her. Suddenly, the corners of Ren Jining's mouth curled into a strange smile, and she stretched her arm out from under the blanket. In her hand was a wooden box which was filled with profound yin-shi, as she threw it towards Yiqing Luo's direction fiercely. Ha ha ha! Yiqing Luo, did you really think that I didn't have any precaution at all? Grand Elder doesn't believe Long Yunjian's words, but I believe. Ren Jining's face was distorted, filled with the crazy pleasure of revenge. This is the witchcraft spell that I got from the Great Elder. Didn't you take that person from the Miao family away? I want to see what method she has to cure you. Ha! The wooden box fell to the ground. Ren Jining's smile froze on her face once again, because at the moment when the wooden box was hurled towards Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Luo's figure had actually disappeared in front of her eyes, until the wooden box fell to the ground. The girl appeared on her bed, a hand hooked onto the necklace around her neck. A ka sound was heard. The necklace fell into the young lady's fair, slender fingers. Ren Jining went into a blank for a moment, as her pupils suddenly widened, as both her hands swiftly pressed on her own neck. This is my thing. Let go. Let go. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-37. Your things. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as her lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Are you sure this is yours? Ren Jining stared at that brilliant necklace in Yiqing Luo's hands as her eyes were filled with terror. Yiqing Luo? You broke it and gave it to me. This is mine. She pounced towards Yiqing Luo and stretched out her hand to snatch the necklace. This necklace was given to her by the Dark Palace. It was also the most important thing for her to improve her strength. With this necklace, her strength was much stronger than before. Without this necklace, how could she make those restless powers in the heaven realm submit to her? Most importantly, the Great Elder would never let her off. The Netherworld Palace would not let her off. Thinking of these consequences, Ren Jining's pupils constricted as her actions of pouncing towards Yiqing Luo became even more frenzied and impatient. Under the bedding, her skin, which was full of red marks, was exposed. Ren Jining didn't care. She just wanted to get the necklace back. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as her smile was overflowing, revealing a flirtatious cold arc. The moment Ren Jining pounced on him, his figure disappeared in front of Ren Jining. It was as though he had fused with the air. Ren Jining missed and looked around in panic. But he saw Yiqing Luo standing in the direction of the entrance. How'd she do it? How'd she get to the door? Ren Jining's bloodshot, beautiful eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. That brilliant and vibrant necklace rippled into a beautiful arc on Yiqing Luo's fingertips. Ren Jining jumped down from the bed. Guangwa's body fell heavily to the ground with a thud. As for the wooden box that fell to the ground, the dense, mysterious Shi seemed to have found its target and rushed towards Ren Jining. A horrified expression appeared on Ren Jining's face. His body suddenly shrank back. No, that was the goo of witchcraft. It was the witchcraft worm which Grand Elder had instructed her to take the opportunity to plant on Yiqing Luo. It was definitely not something good. Ren Jining was terrified and wanted to climb onto the bed. But how could her speed be faster than the Wugu? A wisp of black aura darted toward Ren Jining. In an instant, it swallowed Ren Jining. In the darkness of the night, Ren Jian's painful screams could be heard. Bang! The door was kicked open. DMO Xian's figure appeared in front of Yiqing Luo. Not waiting for DMO Xian to speak, the young lady had already pounced into his arms and stretched out her little hand to cover DMO Xian's eyes as she shouted in a domineering manner, "Don't open your eyes and don't peek." Ren Jining was not wearing anything. She did not want her Xian to see another woman's naked body. DMO Xian didn't move and obediently closed his eyes. Yiqing Luo's hand had not moved away from his eyes, even if the man couldn't see it. His long arms were still wrapped around the girl's waist. His thin lips moved slightly, and his voice was low. "Let's go." Yiqing Luo pulled him along and changed their positions. He turned his back to Ren Jining. Only then did she release his gaze. Following that, her arms wrapped around his neck, and with a small leap, she leapt into DMO Xian's arms. The man caught her steadily and held her firmly on her hips. "We've already gotten the Azure Aqualight chain. Let's go." Yiqing Luo swayed her little feet. DMO Xian carried her and walked out of the room. The black, mysterious Shi made Ren Jining's body revealed a little outline. She curled up on the ground as she cried out in pain. Chapter 4638. Yi Qing Luo, don't be complacent too early. She stared venomously at the two figures who were walking out of the room. She used all her energy to howl hysterically. As long as your heart is soft, Long Yunjian will definitely kill you. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by the person you trust the most? Ha ha. Yi Qing Luo, you're just a pitiful worm. Did you think that you can make Long Yunjian return to your side to talk about brotherhood with you? No, impossible. He has already been washed away by the secluded palace. He's now a chess piece who only listens to the arrangements of the secluded palace. Either you kill him, or wait to be killed by him. He won't have any sense of guilt because he doesn't have a heart. He doesn't have a heart at all. Ren Jining vented the anger in her heart. The intense pain from the witchcraft worm made her lose her rationality. She knew that Yi Qing Luo valued Long Yunjian very much. She also knew, as long as Long Yunjian was mentioned, it was a thorn in Yi Qing Luo's heart. And that person who had already walked out of the room stopped in his tracks following her words. Ren Jining knew that her guess was indeed right. Her words had indeed pierced into Yi Qing Luo's heart. As long as Yi Qing Luo was in pain. As long as Yi Qing Luo was in pain. No matter how much pain she was in, she could take it. Looking at Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian's harmonious and loving look, Ren Jining only felt that it was a thorn in her eyes. On what basis could Yi Qing Luo obtain the one and only love? To make the overlord dote on her so much. And she spent so much effort, but she couldn't get what she wanted. She had to force herself to climb from this man's bed to that man's bed. On what basis? She was obviously not worse than Yi Qing Luo, not any weaker than Yi Qing Luo. Why was heaven so unfair, giving her a second life, but treating her in such a way? If her ending was like this, then why? Did she have to be reborn? Ren Jining's heart was filled with resentment and anger. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something, and under the devouring of the witchcraft worm, her lips curled upwards. Yi Qing Luo, do you want to know why was Long Yunjian washed away all his feelings by the secluded palace? Do you want to know why Long Yunjian became a puppet? Ren Jining burst out laughing. Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo's reply, he directly gave his answer. You probably don't know that Long Yunjian likes you, right? A chess piece had developed feelings for his own mission target. Ha ha, what a joke. He likes you. And it's the kind of affection between a man and a woman. Bang! A gust of wind blew over. Dmo Xian's sleeves fluttered. The entire courtyard collapsed with a loud crash. Ren Jining was engulfed in the collapsed building. Ah Xian! Yi Qing Luo grabbed Dmo Xian's arm and suppressed his agitation. Dmo Xian's brows were filled with viciousness. But when he lowered his eyes to look at the girl, the expression on his face quickly softened. However, even if it was a gentle expression, Yi Qing Luo could tell. He was angry. Moreover, very angry. Yi Qing Luo hugged him tightly as she rubbed against his chest and propped up her waist as she placed her forehead on his. Her motive is to disturb my heart. Don't be angry. Her stupidity touched his face. How could a Jean like me? This kind of lie. No one would believe it even if I told you. Chapter 4639. He really likes you. Dmo Xian's voice was a little deep, and she could faintly hear the suppressed anger in it. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she used her forehead to knock against his forehead. Are you silly to actually believe what she said? I've known since a long time ago that he likes you. Dmo Xian held her hips, making her more comfortable in his arms. However, that pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her very seriously. So, I don't like you to be too close to him, and I don't like you to save him. Yi Qing Luo, she was a little confused and couldn't wrap her head around it. Wait. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. No, if Ajahn likes me, what does Zi Qing count as? Ever since He Long and Yunjian met, she clearly sensed that the atmosphere between Long Yunjian and Tong Ziqing was obviously different. All that was left was for someone to speak up and break the ambiguous deadlock between them. Then they would be together officially. Why did it suddenly become Long Yunjian liking her? If Long Yunjian really likes Tong Ziqing, he wouldn't have made Tong Ziqing wait for him for so long. Dmo Xian's voice was a little cold. After finishing this sentence, he stared at Yi Qing Luo. His eyes darkened. Under the dim light of the night, he appeared even more indescribably handsome. He suddenly lowered his head and bit the tip of the girl's nose. "I'm jealous," he muttered. That aggrieved look was very much like that of a large canine pet. Yi Qing Luo sighed. "What's there to be jealous about? Look at me. Till now, I still don't know that Ajan might like me." "You don't need to know." Dmo Xian's tone became more serious, as if he was a pet fighting for attention. "You only need to know that I love you. That's enough." This man was flirting again. Yi Qing Luo stretched out her hand and pinched his face. All right, don't be in a hurry to be jealous. I'm afraid we're in trouble." It was indeed troublesome. How could it not be troublesome? The two of them were so unbridled in the Ren family. Ren Jinning's voice and hysterical roar. In such a quiet night, how could it not attract the attention of others? Especially earlier, Dmo Xian had directly flipped Ren Jinning's courtyard. It caused such a huge sensation. The guards of the Ren residence and the people from the Dark Abyss Palace rushed over. Dmo Xian's expression did not fluctuate. His deep eyes looked at her deeply. "Coincidentally, I'm not in a good mood. These people came just in time." Yi Qing Luo. A jealous man was really scary. The first elder came in a hurry. He hadn't even put his clothes on properly. Obviously, after tasting the sweetness from Ren Jining, he returned to the base to rest in satisfaction. When he heard the commotion, he hurried over. On seeing Yi Qing Luo and Dmo Xian, Grand Elder's expression sunk. "You too." His brows creased tightly as his gaze fell onto the necklace in Yi Qing Luo's hand. "Azure water chain." The great elder clenched his teeth and looked at the ruins. As expected of trash who can't do anything right. "I told you that she would come to the Run residence tonight, but you didn't believe me." A cold voice came from behind the first elder. Long Yunjian's expression was cold. Under the night sky, his azure eyes were emotionless and cold. "How would this elder know that what you said is true?" The first elder's expression was ugly as he turned his head and looked at Long Yunjian. "You and that woman used to have such a good relationship. How would this elder believe you? Now, do you believe me?" Long Yunjian shot a glance at him indifferently, without any ridicule or any other meaning. Latest update, no pop-up window, please. Chapter 4640. Grand Elder's face turned black as he didn't continue talking to him. After Long Yunjian appeared, Yi Qing Luo's vision was fixed on him. Her eyes were sparkling like water waves as she stared at Long Yunjian without blinking. Ever since Ren Jining mentioned Long Yunjian, she could still lie to herself. All these were fake. Ren Jining intentionally mentioned it to agitate her. But now, Long Yunjian appeared personally said, he had indeed made use of her understanding of her to help Secluded Palace. Only, Secluded Palace didn't appreciate it. She snorted lightly, and a cold, mocking expression flashed across her face. "You're not allowed to look at him." A large palm covered her eyes. A man's unhappy voice was heard. "I'm very unhappy now." Earlier, Yi Qing Luo found out that Long Yunjian liked her. Now, Yi Qing Luo was still staring at Long Yunjian. Even if Dmo Xian knew that his wife had no feelings for Long Yunjian. But the moment Yi Qing Luo's gaze looked over, he was unhappy. The young lady's long lashes slowly swept past Dmo Xian's palm. Her hand covered his palm as she slowly moved it away. "All right, I won't look anymore." "Long Yunjian, don't you want us to believe you?" "All right then. Now, make a move on that woman and let me believe you." Grand Elder saw the young couple were still kissing each other, and his expression instantly turned ugly. Long Yunjian didn't say a word as he drew out the long sword in his hand. The blue profound glow was extremely dazzling in the quiet night. He held up his long sword as he walked towards Yi Qing Luo step by step. Seeing Long Yunzhan's actions, Grand Elder couldn't help but burst out laughing. I love this kind of internecine drama the most, haha. In the day, Long Yunzhan faced her with his sword. Now, Long Yunzhan had once again used that sword which had once protected the World Group's brothers and aimed it at her. Even though she had many explanations for Long Yunzhan in her heart and had thought of numerous reasons for him. But when it came to this situation, Yiqing Luo's heart couldn't help but feel dull pain. Stand properly. DMO Xian pulled her behind his back. His broad and tall figure blocked Yiqing Luo's line of sight. The man's entire body faintly emitted an oppressive, profound energy. Yiqing Luo's little hand clutched his robes tightly as her gaze went past his body, looking at that expressionless Long Yunzhan. Don't kill him. DMO Xian did not speak. He leaped. The sleeves of his purple robe fluttered. She was like a proud and aloof purple lotus. Bang! The terrifying dark radiance engulfed the entire Ren residence. The ground cracked open and the buildings collapsed layer by layer. The surroundings were filled with screams. Immediately after, the man moved and appeared in front of Long Yunzhan. He moved his palm, and countless dark force wrapped around Long Yunzhan like silk threads. Long Yunzhan reacted quickly and slashed with a saber. It actually withstood a wave of DMO Xian's attack. A shocking, profound light lingered in the sky. Yiqing Luo's eyes were fixated on DMO Xian's body without blinking, as her heart started to palpitate uneasily. She could tell. DMO Xian was really angry. These ruined residences, guards, and secluded palaces, people had all become DMO Xian's tools to vent his anger. Watching DMO Xian and Long Yunzhan cross hands, Yiqing Luo was still worried that DMO Xian would injure Long Yunzhan seriously because he had injured her. Her attention was focused on DMO Xian and Long Yunzhan. She hadn't noticed that a figure behind her was silently approaching her. Chapter 46-41. Until Yiqing Luo's ears twitched. She vaguely heard something amiss in the wind. As soon as he turned around, he saw the great elder's extremely terrifying face. Seeing Yiqing Luo's reaction, he laughed sinisterly. Yiqing Luo, be good and take a nap in case you suffer. Following Grand Elder's words, his black robe moved. What met her was a ball of thick black yin qi. Yiqing Luo immediately evaded, but Grand Elder's fingers were like eagle claws as he swiftly locked onto her shoulder. And just as Grand Elder was closing in on Yiqing Luo, Lil Luo, DMO Xian's eyes turned sharp as he raised his palm towards Long Yunzhan's chest, speedily heading towards Yiqing Luo's direction. It was thrilling and dangerous at this critical moment. Not waiting for the crowd to react, a figure appeared in midair in the direction where Yiqing Luo had retreated. Yiqing Luo directly crashed into that person's arms. Elegant plum fragrance, with a hint of coldness, poured down. Yiqing Luo subconsciously wanted to leave that person's arms. That person's long arm suddenly exerted strength as he locked her waist tightly, pressing her tightly into his arms. Yiqing Luo couldn't struggle free. Following that, an irresistible profound ray rippled out from that person's sleeves. The two figures disappeared from the Ren residence. Damn it! The Great Elder gritted his teeth and cursed. This sudden interruption had snatched away the prey that was already in his hands. Lil Luo, DMO Xian's eyes were filled with frost. The coldness between his brows seemed to be able to condense the surrounding air into frost. His frozen gaze looked towards Long Yunzhan. You'd better pray that he won't hurt Lil Luo or otherwise. Even if Lil Luo speaks up for you, this lord will not be lenient. Earlier, he was able to rush to Yiqing Luo's side in time. He waved that palm. Long Yunzhan could totally avoid it. But Long Yunzhan didn't avoid it. Instead, he took the initiative to meet him. And it was that action that made Dmo Xin paused for a moment. And it was that moment. When he rushed towards Yi Qing Luo, he was a step too late. He could only watch Yi Qing Luo being taken away by someone. Long Yinzhan didn't respond to Dmo Xin's words. A pair of azure blue eyes stared unblinkingly at the direction where Yi Qing Luo had disappeared to. In his eyes, one could vaguely see a deep meaning that couldn't be dispelled. Yi Qing Luo was held tightly in someone's arms until his feet touched the ground. That person still had no intention of letting go. He held her tightly in his arms. He greedily absorbed her scent. After struggling to no avail, Yi Qing Luo's expression turned uglier and uglier. She simply stopped struggling and said coldly, "Zhu Wuxin, if you don't let go, don't blame me for using poison." His voice was cold and emotionless. The person who was hugging her stiffened. Little by little, he loosened his grip on her waist. Yi Qing Luo left his embrace and took 2 steps back before she slowly raised her head to look at him. The man in front of him was dressed in a fiery red robe, and his black hair draped over his shoulders. There wasn't much emotion on his cold and handsome face. A pair of icy cold eyes stared at her without blinking. There were too many emotions beneath his eyes, which Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand and didn't want to understand. "What are you doing?" Yi Qing Luo looked at him as she asked. The man in front of her, on that icy cold face, slowly surfaced a different expression. He looked at Yi Qing Luo as he said word by word, "I miss you. Miss her. Miss her very much." Ever since they parted the last time, he restrained himself and didn't look for her again, but he couldn't help but miss her. Chapter 46-42. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A deafening explosion sound reverberated through the entire space. In the space, profound waves surged, as though a monstrous, huge wave, wave after wave, crazily attacking. Even the sky had turned into an extremely oppressive deep black. The aura, crazily entangled, swallowing Yi Qing Luo entirely. Yi Qing Luo. This scene made the palace lord's pupils abruptly widen, as he screamed out Yi Qing Luo's name hoarsely. He wanted to dash towards the side where the profound energy was surging, but his path was completely blocked by the Linglong Palace's disciples. "Get lost! Get lost!" The palace lord of the Linglong Palace bellowed furiously. The overbearing energy crazily sent the people who were blocking in front of him flying. But there were still numerous female disciples who came forward wave after wave. Under the black robe, that pair of gloomy and sullen eyes overflowed with large black threads. If he wasn't shrouded in the black robe, then everyone could see. That pair of eyes was like a densely packed spider web with numerous black threads. Those black threads, bit by bit, lingered in his pupils. Boundless evil qi overflowed from the palace lord of the Linglong Palace. That piece after piece, like a thin fog, the evil qi speedily spread in all directions. Everywhere it went, those Linglong Palace's female disciples who were flocking towards him all had a huge change in expression. Immediately following that, the expression on their faces started to turn sinister. One by one, they tore each other apart, tangling together. She realized that the evil qi which spread out was not right. Linglong Palace Lord's expression changed slightly as she speedily retreated a few steps. She waved her sleeve. A transparent barrier blocked in front of her. It blocked off all the evil energy that was spreading over. But she had avoided the evil qi. But those female disciples who were guarding the surroundings were all affected by the evil qi. The method of killing each other was extremely vicious. Just a moment later, the entire space was filled with a thick blood stench. Blood also dyed the ground red. This scene made Linglong Palace Lord's expression sunk. She raised her voice. "Wake this palace lord up. What do you all look like?" It was so easy for him to be attracted by my mind. However, no one heard her voice. Without these obstacles in the way, he would not be able to stop them. The palace lord of Ethereal Palace immediately rushed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. In the meantime, earlier that wave of boundless energy which had engulfed Yi Qing Luo suddenly exploded with an extremely dense and intense aura. Bang! It was a loud noise. A fiery red shadow flashed past in front of his eyes. It was really fiery red. It was like a flame, dazzling and dazzling. That red was blinding for an instant. The surrounding air seemed to become extremely hot as a result. The surging heat and the blazing heat roasted everything around it. The ground was littered with corpses, and the smell of dried meat emanated from them. Many female disciples were affected by the evil Yin energy. Like a wild beast, he opened his mouth and began to tear at his opponent's flesh. It was an extremely bloody and cruel scene. The first judicial judge and the third judicial judge's relaxed faces immediately tensed up. He immediately raised his head and looked in the direction of the fiery red shadow. His entire body instantly froze. It was a giant bird that was entirely red in color. Its phoenix feathers were like flames, overflowing with brilliance and vibrant colors. As it spread its wings, there were rays of light flowing, extremely dazzling. Vermilion bird, one of the 4 sacred beasts. Vermilion bird's sacred beast. Update completed. Moi. Tomorrow the Overlord will make a dazzling appearance, thanks to disaster. 8 100 book coins, say goodbye with a smile. 588 for 1,100 book coins, Juju's reward, love you all. End of this chapter. 97. Chapter 46-43. He shut his eyes hard, but if I was given another chance, I would still make the same choice. Because the days when he imprisoned her, it was his most beautiful memory. And that was also his way of protecting her. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Zhu Wu Xn, you're still like this until now. She turned around, and the gaze she shot at him was filled with disappointment. Zhu Wu Xin was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. His jet black hair hung down as it floated in the wind. His perfect side profile didn't have much emotion, but it made one feel the pain in his heart. Don't follow me anymore, Yi Qing Luo said calmly. I will not forgive you for what happened the last time. Saying that, she turned around and left. Behind her, Zhu Wu Xin didn't follow her. Only, Yi Qing Luo could feel that his burning gaze was following her closely, until her figure disappeared around the corner. Yi Qing Luo sighed deeply. She really didn't like to torment these complicated feelings. To her, if she liked someone, then they should be together. If the other party didn't like her, then she wouldn't disturb the other party. Pestering and using unyielding methods with an unusual stubbornness. It would only make the other party feel even more disgusted, wouldn't it? Zhu Wu Xin was much more stubborn than Gu Jingyu. Yi Qing Luo rubbed her forehead. Her head was a little big. She'd better hurry back to the Ren residence. Xian would definitely go crazy looking for her. Yi Qing Luo's figure swiftly wandered in the deep alley. But, after walking for a distance, Yi Qing Luo stopped in her tracks as she frowned slightly and looked behind her. Zhu Wu Xin. She sensed that someone had been following her. Silence for a moment. Only then did a figure slowly walk out from the darkness. It was a slender figure. She was dressed in a long, flowing dress, which made her look conspicuous and eye-catching. Yi Qing Luo was stunned as she looked at her in astonishment. It's you. The lady slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo. Her eyes met with Yi Qing Luo's. Why are you? Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips as she was slightly astonished. Group leader Su. The person in front of her was the group leader of the 3rd mercenary group, which she met in the Earth Realm, and also Gu Zixi group leader, Su Qingbing. Why was she here? I want to talk to you about Wu Xin. Su Qingbing's voice was calm, but the emotions in her eyes revealed her thoughts. Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered and nodded after some time. All right. The two of them leaned against the wall. I'm not trying to persuade you to be with Wu Xin. Su Qingbing tilted her head to look at her and smiled. I like Wu Xin. She was very calm and naturally admitted her feelings for Zhu Wuxin. My obsession with him is the same as his obsession with you. So, I won't give up the chance to be with him. Su Qingbing withdrew her gaze and slowly raised her head to look at the narrow sky in the long alley. Then what do you want to discuss with me about him? Yiqing Luo admired this kind of lady. Love is open. Su Qingbing chuckled. If possible, I hope you can forgive him. Everything he has done is because he cares about you. He has never known what love is. Even when Ache and I are by his side, we have never felt any warmth from him. He totally doesn't know how to love and doesn't know any feelings. Perhaps everything he has done has caused harm to you, but his original intention were all for you. Su Qingbing lowered her head again. The reason why he imprisoned you the last time was actually because Chapter 46-44. I know. Yiqing Luo turned her body sideways and placed her hand on her shoulder. Sure enough, she felt the woman's delicate body trembling slightly. In fact, after saying these words, Su Qingbing's heart felt even more uncomfortable. Anyone who faced their love rival and spoke up for their beloved, hoping that the love rival could forgive their beloved. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Leader Su, I know, he trapped me there, because my profound jade heart secret was exposed. Yiqing Luo patted her shoulder lightly. He wanted to protect me. You know, Su Qingbing pursed her lips tightly. Her eyes looked at her without blinking, since knowing is one thing, but being able to accept it is another. Yiqing Luo let go of her shoulder and leaned against the wall again, raising her head to look at the sky. This matter concerns me. He should tell me everything, and whether to accept his arrangement, is my decision. Do you know why I like Xian? She tilted her head and looked at Su Qingbing. Su Qingbing's pupils contracted slightly. Why? She was also very curious. Why would a free and unrestrained woman like Yiqing Luo choose a man like the Overlord? Based on Yiqing Luo's character, she was definitely not the kind of person who would be together with the Overlord because of his status, even if they didn't meet many times. But Su Qingbing could see it. The relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord. No one could step in. That kind of sincerity made one envious. Yiqing Luo lightly hooked her lips because Xian understands. Everything is based on my wishes. When mentioning Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo's expression was obviously much gentler. Her pink lips lightly hooked, her eyes filled with a faint smile. Whatever I want to do, Xian will support me unconditionally. As long as I want, he will definitely agree. I want to grow, so he suppressed his worry for me and let me fight alone. I want to become stronger, so he used his own way to help me, but never interfered in any of my matters. My decision, no matter how unbelievable, he will accompany me and complete it with me. When Yiqing Luo said this, she paused slightly. The smile and gentleness on his face became even more pronounced. Xian is not the kind of person who cares about other people's feelings, nor is he the kind of person who will compromise. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly as she looked at Su Qingbing. Actually, the previous Xian and Zhu Wuxan should be considered as the same kind of person. But Xian is willing to change for me and compromise for me. Su Qingbing stared at her blankly. Some kind of emotion was surging in his eyes. But Zhu Wuxin is different. Yiqing Luo smiled as she opened her mouth. He's too stubborn, too stubborn. Towards me, is it because of his past possessiveness or because he really loves me? I'm afraid even he himself isn't sure, right? Su Qingbing pursed her lips and looked at her firmly. No. He loves you, Wuxin. He absolutely loves you. Yiqing Luo smiled. No matter if it's love or possessiveness, to me, it's too heavy. Zhu Wuxin has never cared about my wishes. He only uses his own thoughts to impose on me, deciding everything about me. To him, he probably only wants a canary which he can control in his palm. A canary who will only follow by his side, who only has him in her eyes and heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-45. Su Qingbing was speechless. What Yi Qing Luo said was indeed so. Zhu Wuxian was a stubborn and overbearing person. Whatever he had his eyes on must belong to him. Whatever he wanted must belong to him. This kind of possessiveness and overbearingness made one suffocated. After some time, Su Qingbing finally found a chance as she spoke out in a hoarse voice. But if you don't give him a chance, how do you know that he isn't willing to change for you? If you are able to forgive Wu Xian, he will definitely be willing to change for you. Su Qingbing thought of this period of time. Zhu Wuxian had completely changed into a different person because of Yi Qing Luo. She had never seen Zhu Wuxian who lost control. But as long as it concerned Yi Qing Luo, Zhu Wuxian seemed to have changed into another person. So, it wasn't that Zhu Wuxian wasn't willing to change. But Yi Qing Luo didn't give him that chance. Because I don't like him. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she continued. Because I love Xian, so I will not give Zhu Wuxian any chance. Su Qingbing was speechless once again. Since you like Zhu Wuxian so much, then work hard and walk into his heart, and not here, to convince me to accept Zhu Wuxian. Yi Qing Luo smiled at her. All of you don't need to follow me anymore. This is a matter between me and the Palace of Darkness. Since Zhu Wuxian had worked together with the Palace of Darkness, then don't interfere in this matter. I'm not asking you to accept him. At this moment, Su Qingbing's expression was completely different from the leader who killed decisively and cleanly in front of the bloody mercenaries' members. Her face was filled with anxiety, anxious to convince Yi Qing Luo. I'm hoping that you can forgive him for what he had done to you previously. Su Qingbing took a step back and bowed to her. Yi Qing Luo, since you already know the real reason why Wu Xian did what he did, can you please forgive him on account that he did it because he cared about you? That's why he did the wrong thing. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply. Su Qingbing was feeling apprehensive. Ever since you left, Wu Xian seemed to have changed into another person. Them now really isn't like him. I can tell that he has been wanting to apologize to you. The lady's voice was very soft. It sounded like a plea. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change, and her tone was indifferent. Leader Su, there's no need to say anymore. With that, she turned around and walked away. Su Qingbing wanted to stop her. But when he saw the girl's back without hesitation, he felt a chill run down his spine. He swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. She had read countless people and naturally could tell Yi Qing Luo's character. Since Yi Qing Luo had already decided on something, no matter how she persuaded her, it would be of no use. Yi Qing Luo would never forgive Zhu Wuxian. That was unforgivable. What should she think of now to persuade Zhu Wuxian? Su Qingbing faintly sighed, turned around, and walked in the direction of Zhu Wuxian. As soon as he turned around, he saw a figure dressed in a fiery robe standing in the shadows. The man leaned against the wall. He was shrouded in a layer of shadow. It seemed to be lingering with deep sorrow and loss. Su Qingbing's lips moved. Wu Wuxian, when did Zhu Wuxian stand there? How much did he actually listen to? The moment she opened her mouth, the man who was leaning against the wall suddenly swayed. As though he had lost his supporting strength, he suddenly fell limply onto the ground. Su Qingbing rushed over anxiously and immediately supported Zhu Wuxian. Wu Wuxian, are you all right? Chapter 46-46. Zhu Wuxian lowered his head, not saying a single word, as though he had sealed himself in his own world. Su Qingbing squatted beside him, her slender fingers clasped tightly onto his arm. How much? Did you hear? Zhu Wuxian had a reaction. His thick eyelashes trembled slightly. His cold gaze fell onto her, all of it. Su Qingbing was stunned by that cold gaze for a moment, as the hand which was holding onto his arm tightened. Then you... She knows I'm beside her. Zhu Wuxen seemed as though he hadn't heard Su Qingbing's words as he muttered to himself. That pair of icy cold eyes looked ahead without any focus. Right from the start, she knew I was beside her. Her words were intentionally said for me to hear. The man's voice was very low, every word and sentence low and flustered. Su Qingbing didn't know how to comfort him. Or perhaps the current Zhu Wuxin totally couldn't hear a single word. Yiqing Luo, who had left without any hesitation, stopped at the corner. She stood at the corner, taking a look at Zhu Wuxin and Su Qingbing's direction. Seeing Zhu Wuxin sitting on the ground, not knowing what he was thinking, Yiqing Luo sighed. But in the end, she left without turning back. She didn't know where Zhu Wuxin had brought her to. The surroundings were filled with buildings and long alleys. But the environment was unfamiliar. It didn't seem like she was in the old city. Yiqing Luo leapt onto a wall, taking in the surrounding terrain into her eyes. Her gaze suddenly fixed on a certain place. That was an extremely luxurious and spacious mansion. What attracted Yiqing Luo's attention wasn't the luxurious degree of that mansion, but she saw a black-robed old lady squatting there in a courtyard. The old lady's body was encircled by an extremely dense, profound qi. That was the qi which came from the Nether Palace. Towards this kind of qi, Yiqing Luo was the most sensitive. The profound qi on this old lady was on par with that grand elder. Someone from the Nether Palace? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she concealed her qi as her figure moved swiftly. She stealthily approached the courtyard on the other side. There was no profound qi fluctuation in the surroundings. What was this old lady from the Palace of Darkness doing here? It was until they got nearer to the courtyard, when Yiqing Luo could faintly hear the complicated and strange words coming out from the old lady's mouth. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. The old woman muttered to herself for a long time. Only then did he stop. Very soon, a handsome young man dressed in the uniform of the Palace of Darkness walked over with a wet, soft cloth. He half squatted beside the old woman and wiped her sweat. The man's voice was filled with flattery. "Venerable Wu, is your witchcraft a success?" As the man spoke, his body was almost pressed against the old woman's. The old woman moved her hand and pulled the man into her arms. "You want to know?" The old lady's voice was extremely ear-piercing and hoarse. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. The man had clearly been by the old woman's side for a long time. His words were filled with conforming to the old woman. "I just want to know if you can spend more time with me after the witch goose succeeds." The old woman laughed sinisterly. She lowered her head to that young man's mouth as she fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva. "You only know how to please me. This thing has succeeded." The old woman pulled the man away from her arms and immediately stood up. "You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.